Hear ye, hear ye! The Parliament of Geeks shall now come to order!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Parliament of Geeks, where we ask and answer one simple question. Be it weeb, or be it scrub? I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 1, 2, 3, 4 good brothers. Ha 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 ha! We have our living Wikipedia and flamboyant flyer, and the guy who has spent the last God knows how many years not updating his fucking handle on social media. Good brother Flutter. We have the man.
You ready to feel some emotional pain tonight, kiddies?
Emotional damage!
I will send you to Jesus.
I will send you to Jesus! You have to say it right.
What the hell?
I am too white to follow this joke, so I'm just gonna let it lie, folks.
So am I! I'm still doing it!
So am I!
Moving on!
Yep. We have the man praying for Boston misery, so he and I can laugh at all the massholes. Good brother Matty. We have making his return. The man who despite being a supposed Sean Schemmel impersonator, he actually shows up on time.
Oh!
Good brother Shades.
Okay, real quick, if I may. Now I have this wonderful mental image of Shades voicing Ultraman Zero.
I should debut for that!
No, hey.
Because Sean's voicing Zero.
I know, but it's still 0. Moving on.
Fair enough.
I will simply say, Flutter, you're 10,000 years too early.
Thank you. Yes, I am.
And last but not least, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadara Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, who is currently making a mecha with a giant M on it, so fucking sue us, monster. Good, Brother Xanatrix.
We've made sure to put everything in Monster Green as well. Again, fucking sue me! I'll bury you!
Which, by the way, for the I had found out that not only is Monster Energy trying to sue the Pokemon Company, but they're also trying to sue Capcom, both over the use of Monster.
And those both of those suits
word
failed
monster?
before they began. Yes, the trademark for the word monster.
Excuse me.
They've been
It's impossible to trademark.
Well, they've been trademark trolling the word monster on only Japanese companies for like the last fucking 10 years. They've done hundreds of them, and they lose every goddamn time before it even starts. The courts just go, yeah, you're stupid, and throw it out.
Mm-hmm. The argument that they end up using is brand confusion, because somehow people are going to confuse
Fucking what?
an energy drink with a video game. You figure that out.
One's fast becoming a legacy video game franchise. One's an energy drink. What brand confusion?
Okay. I know we have this as part of the tradition, but can we just go ahead and hit a certain button now?
Since we're going to be driving ourselves to drink, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our drinking anthem.
And with that, it is time to sound the yellow horn! 7 minutes in and we're already in chaos mode.
Chaos
Is
mode
that really-
Chaos mode starts at 0 minutes when you're with me, motherfuckers.
I was gonna say, like, what the fuck you on about, Monk?
Chaos mode starts when Zan walks in. What are you fucking on?
I could have told you that.
Drugs.
Yes, we're all on a bucket of fucking drugs. That's what we're on.
That's when I realized I should not do drugs. But then I went to Canada.
You went to Canada because that's just cheap drugs.
You know, Monk, this oddly feels like you're suddenly targeting Maddie.
No, because how could I do that? I've been making BC Bud jokes for years.
Fair. Touche.
Oh, we have fun here.
Yes, we do.
So, as mentioned last time, we spun the wheel and it landed on Kiznaiver, which I think could be easily stated as the hidden gem of Trigger, as well as one that was the victim of very bad timing.
Yes.
Since
Yeah,
As
because
it
it was released. I believe it was summer of 2015. I believe, or no,
April of
Spring of
2016.
2016.
April of 2016. Around
2016.
no, listen. Right as the same time, literally 8 days after Luluco starts airing.
yeah, and it also had to compete with like stuff like Hero Aka making its grand entrance, which completely blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
So,
Didn't
and
it
several
also
other
take-
shows were also coming out around that time. JoJo Part 4 was coming out. There was a lot of
Diamond is
big anime
Unbreakable.
coming out. Yeah, there was a lot of big anime coming out around that time. And a show like Kiznaiver was just guaranteed to get lost in the shuffle, even if it was as good as it was.
Here's
Yeah.
the ones that when we, after I celebrated like crazy when he got that on the wheel, everybody remembers when I was like, yes! Everybody remembers that.
Uh-huh.
Here are the
When you
shows.
did that.
I kill my mic every time I scream, Flutter. Come on
Fair
now.
enough.
They
Fair
might as well call me the second coming of Morikawa.
Oh, Jesus.
But here in just April of 2016, Space Patrol Luluco, the Terraformars sequel, Ushio and Tora, Ace Attorney, The Asterisk War, Diamond is Unbreakable. We have Macross Delta. We have some of the starting releases of the TV version of Gundam Unicorn. Hero Aka. We have We have ReZero. We have, though not quite as popular, Joker game. We have Bungo Stray Dogs. We have Haven't You Heard? I'm Sakamoto. We have Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. We have Magi, the Adventure of Sinbad. We have all of these things in April of 2016 alone, along with Kiznaiver.
Yeah. With all of those big hit anime coming out around that time, it was unfortunately inevitable that a show like Kiznaiver, despite the pedigree of Trigger, was not gonna hold up against all those juggernauts hitting them all at once.
They
Yeah,
overshadowed themselves. They overshadowed themselves.
For comparison, for you non-anime folk out there, by the way, if you should watch more anime. Just saying.
Yes.
The equal comparison would be the Timothy Dalton movies, especially the first one. That movie had some stiff competition. The last Indiana Jones movie, the Batman movie, the first one, the Tim Burton one, the really good one. Those are just two examples, right? Fucking there. So, in a sense, Kiznaiver was stuck in which is good in its own right. Just timing and just the competition was very, very stiff.
Yes.
Literally, if you had either pushed it or pulled it 1 month in either direction, it might have had a better shot.
Yeah.
I think 1 month later probably would have given it
May
the
would have
type
given
of
it a better shot. Yeah.
Flutter. You're echoing.
Apologies.
Hold on. I didn't think I'd be pulling this out this early, but I have a button for you that you haven't used in a long time.
Yes, sir.
That is very deserved.
At least he admits
Even
it.
I can admit that.
Anyway, but yeah.
Moving up.
Yeah, but with Kiznaiver, I mean, this is Studio Trigger. And that's actually one of the first things about it that makes this interesting, is that Kiznaiver, being a Trigger anime, Trigger is known for over-the-top comedic style anime. I mean, we mentioned Luluco earlier, Death Cop, Kill la Kill, a lot of just insane anime. And this series certainly was a bit over the top at times. I mean, you look at one of the character designs there of our crew, and you see Trigger style written all over the thing. But by comparison, Kiznaiver is a lot more serious and I don't want to say downplayed, but no, not just that. Actually, most Trigger anime is thought provoking in a way, but what I would say is less over the top. It's a lot more
character
downplayed.
study.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
it's very grounded.
And the biggest thing about Kiznaiver, the point I made to everyone when we started going into this, unfortunately Shades could not watch with us, but he's seen it before, so, needs must. There's very, very poignant statements made throughout the whole thing. And you get your normal Trigger amounts of comedy. We have plenty of things that we'll be going over soon that are, it's Trigger's slapstick, it's Trigger's, I think I only need to say one name, Hisomu.
We'll get to him.
We will indeed get to Mr. Yoshiharu's Hisomu.
Yes,
But you had those moments of levity that acted as cathartic pressure valves. That's what the comedy was for in this show. Because, holy fuck, and I do mean, holy fuck, it's not mood whiplash, it's not a roller coaster, it is a fucking handcart to emotional hell. Get ready and buckle up.
No. This is exactly an emotional fucking pile driver, is what that is.
To sum up this anime in one button, and we've already kind of mentioned this joke earlier, but I think this button needs to be absolutely pressed for this. This anime is simply
emotional damage.
Absolutely.
Quite literally.
yes.
I will note one other thing. At the end of the day, Kiznaiver is high concept science fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
To the point where,
Yes.
if this had been published if this story had been published in a pulp novel, like 70 years ago, I would not. I would ask if Asimov was involved in some form.
Oh yeah.
I could see this being an Asimovian story, but then you wouldn't have nearly as much comedy, and you would just feel existential dread at the end of reading it.
Yeah, that's the reason why I don't. But the point is that in most high concept SF is all going to be about introducing a certain form of conceptual technology, how it works, and how it can go wrong.
Yes.
If I have to use a mainstream example of high concept SF in the last few years, Inception.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But to not confuse you guys, it's not the same kind of thing here. This story also is about how we oftentimes don't try to understand one another. We don't try to. We always try to we use our differences to say, I don't know how you are, so I don't want to associate with you. I don't get you. So I don't want to get you. But what happens if you're forced to? What if you're forced to feel what they feel? How would your feelings about them change?
Essentially, what would you do if we made empathy a physical marker that you had to feel?
And to that end, I'm not sure if this was ever confirmed by either the director or the writer, but I would not be surprised if somebody was taking some inspiration from The Breakfast Club.
Oh, by either Hiroshi Kobayashi or the mangaka herself, Mari Okada.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they got the mangaka herself to write the anime.
Well, this was a manga. This is not a case of a manga adaptation.
This was an anime first.
Fair.
Yeah, this was an anime original, like a lot of Trigger stuff has been at times.
Fair enough.
Now, as far as the people involved, well, we already mentioned Mari Okada. So, and the funny thing is that despite me referring to her as a mangaka, the majority of her work, of her bibliography, is in television, some OVAs, some films, and like 3 live-action films.
Yeah. She's a mangaka in all but name.
No, she's a screenwriter first and foremost.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Also, I need to call out something because I'm looking on Wikipedia about this. According to what I'm seeing here, Mari Okada did not write the manga.
No,
I'm seeing a different name here.
Noji Karegishi.
She wrote, but she did write the screenplay.
She wrote this. But Flutter was saying that we were trying to say that she also wrote the manga. She did not.
My mistake.
Yeah.
But so for the staff that we have here, the director was Hiroshi Kobayashi, and as we've already mentioned, series composition and screenplay is Okada. But the one person I need to point out to the benefit of everything else, because you know how we all harp on about audio identity. Kiznaiver has it. We said audio
spades.
yes, Kiznaiver, I said it to Monk, and Monk said it with strong words. There is more audio identity to Kiznaiver than there was Arcane.
That tells you something right fucking there.
Yes. And
Long story short, soundtrack good. Soundtrack should be in your MP3 player of choice.
Yes.
Buy the OSTs if you can.
Yes. And the composer was Yuki Hayashi. And so I want to see more things from Yuki Hayashi. I'm sure I've heard things from Yuki Hayashi.
I can tell you've heard things from Yuki Hayashi, because guess what he went on to compose for?
I don't know, Shay.
The first 5 seasons and the first few movies of Hiroaka.
So everybody who loves You Say Run, you should also watch Kiznaiver!
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah. Yes.
In fact, not only that, but we can probably use this to bully Cure because he's been involved in 5 pre-Cure movies.
5 movies and 3 seasons.
Those movies being Dream Stars, the Kira Kira a la Mode movie, Superstars, the Hoguto movie, and Miracle Universe.
Yep.
Well, that's considering he also did the music for Kira Kira Precure, Huguto, and Star Twinkle.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also see that he worked on a live-action comedy called April Fools, which I feel is calling me out.
Maybe.
I mean, if the shoe fits, Monk, as I always say.
Oh, and you have also heard his music if you have been watching both either the sub or dub of Pokemon Journeys. He is the composer of that as well.
He's got quite the musical history. Hell, another series I can bring up is a good old favorite of mine, Death Parade.
For me, another one that I can bring up, the new Shaman King series.
Which, Death Parade is something that both you and I put on the wheel. We may actually hit it at some point.
Oh,
maybe.
I hope you do.
I fucking love Death Parade, but it's... No spoilers, but much like Kiznaiver, get ready for that hand card of emotional damage to hell!
Oh, yes! Oh, fuck yes!
Now, as the director, and this was his directorial debut, is Hiroshi Kobayashi. And he's had quite a bit of material under his belt. One of which is being the director and storyboarder for The Witch from Mercury, and doing a few storyboards for Iron-Blooded Orphans. But before this, he was the assistant director for Rage of Bahamut and an episode director for Kill la Kill.
Yep. So he's very familiar with Trigger's style.
And the fact that he's the director for Witch from Mercury, and we watched Kiznaiver now, just it warms my heart because Witch from Mercury is real good too.
Yep.
Man,
as I've heard.
I'm spoiled for anime.
He was also responsible for some storyboard for some minor work on another anime that I consider vastly underrated. That being Control: The Money and Soul of Possibility.
Ooh.
Also known as Economics Fuck Yeah. but also horribly depressing, and also I should not have been watching that anime while playing Persona because the two of them ended up blending together in my head.
Oh fuck!
Good job.
Was also there's a whole lot of storyboard and episode directing under his belt.
Yeah, I see that too.
And apparently, one of the other things he has under his belt is whenever this thing comes out, is the remake of Spriggan.
Ooh!
I'm not sure if that actually came out. I know that was announced a couple of years ago, but it was But he is slated as the director for that.
According to my enemy list, yeah, the Spriggan ONA was released in June of 2022.
June 18th to be exact.
All right, then I'll probably dig around to find it and add it to my pile.
It's on Netflix from what I've read.
Oh, and that leads to my thing that we always talk about and always have to seem to castigate people for. The only way you're going to get to watch Kiznaiver on a streaming service is if you pay exorbitant amounts of money to Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
It's premium only for a 7-year-old anime.
What the fuck?
I warned this was gonna happen. I said this a couple years ago when I did my video about that merger. I said this shit was gonna happen.
Yet no one listened to you.
I mean, we did, but we're also
We did, but no one else did.
But like Captain Harlock, we all sail our own Arcadias.
That we do.
That we do.
And yes, this is another in the growing list of things I'm going to throw at anyone who plays the shame game regarding the high seas. And or to put it another way, congratulations once again on proving Gabe Newell right.
Yes. You may agree with my outlook on sailing the high seas. You should support the official release whenever at all possible. But if there is literally no other feasible option, you are free to sail the high seas at your leisure.
Butter, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. The point we're making here is that there is a viable option. There is a legal option, but that legal option has become so ridiculously dumb now that's created that problem.
Fair enough.
Let me use a parallel. In the early days of Game of Thrones, the primary way that you could get it was either having HBO and taping, which is an ask, or setting up an HBO Go account, which is an even bigger ask. And
which is now HBO Go, and now HBO Go has been rebranded into HBO Max.
The reason why I bring up Gabe Newell's quote is once again he said, "Piracy is a service problem." In this particular instance, because of the amount of hoops that you'd have to go in order to stream Kiznaiver, you end up making a service problem.
Yep. If your service is not convenient and easily accessible,
yes.
which doesn't mean free, okay? We are not saying that everything should be 100% free all the time.
No.
But if your service is convenient and easily accessible, you usually will not have large piracy problems. There's always going to be a small amount of piracy. That's much like there's always a small amount of actual physical theft. It's not something that's good. No one condones it. It's just a fact of reality that you have to plan for.
It's a necessary evil.
This shit exists, period.
Yes.
It's a necessary evil that you have to live with.
I've said this before. I said this before when I talked about the Kiss anime shutdown. There will always be people who will pirate just for the sake of it. Just to stick it to the man, just to hate, for piracy's sake, just for the thrill of stealing. They don't care. You're never gonna, and those people, fuck them. You're never gonna be able to ignore them. But the people you should be worried about, and the people that you are creating with this problem, are the people who would love to pay a simple fee to get access to it, but you are denying them for one reason or another. Those are the people who you keep pissing off.
Yes.
And not to get too far into the weeds regarding this lesson, the loss of convenience isn't just that. Let's not forget that Crunchyroll and Funimation love to editorialize their subs and their dubs.
They do. Also, can you not use in the weeds right now? That as a wrestling fan, I just want to say fuck Junior now.
Fuck Vincente Mikmahan. I am never referring. That is my official new name for his ass. Given that little
Flutter. Flutter, as fun as that is, there's a simpler way to do this.
Junior.
Because he
No.
hates that name. He hates the Junior in his name.
It's
No.
historically relevant. Also, Rails. I just wanted to say that. It's like, don't use them.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about Andrew Ryan of the Fed today.
Ooh,
But
That's a good
that's a
point to
good
end that rails on.
Yeah.
that's
So-
good. Damn.
Getting back to the matter at hand. Now, before we can even get into things, we would be remiss if we didn't point out that the opening and the ending are both equal parts bangers. One of which we did not skip at all, and we usually skip the opening after like the first episode of the week we're watching.
yes, Lay Your Hands on Me by the Boom Boom Satellites, the very last EP they ever released, because shortly after that, the guitarist died of brain cancer. Fuck
Yeah.
cancer.
Fuck cancer. But I said this in my original review on Anime Takeover, and I will say it again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an earworm alert!
Yep.
Oh, fuck yeah, we do!
Now, that being said, I'm not sure if you did, but we ended up watching this thing subbed. And
No, I believe I watched the dub.
yeah, that is something where there's going to be a bit of difference. Just something to note. I will. Now, we had our reasons, which I'll let Zan go into a minute, but I will note there were several remarks throughout the script that don't translate well, especially that rhyming game a little ways in. There's no way you could do that in English.
Yeah, well, we can do word chain in English, but you have to use English words. The reason I insisted on the dub primarily was for some of the idiosyncrasies behind the more emotional scenes, especially my favorite scene. And the subtitles I used were specifically from Eisenshi, which did their best to translate everything as faithfully as possible, and anything they couldn't translate well, got an extra little. It wasn't like the old-fashioned translator notes at the top of the screen, but for example, when Noriko is calling Katsuhira the imbecile, they put Gudon over the imbecile, so you can understand why Katsuhira just goes, Udon? Why am I hearing about Udon? You get the joke then.
You get the joke. It's an instance of him just mishearing something.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I will note, since I did watch the dub, that this was not your standard Funimation dub. This was actually handled by Ocean Studios. Yes, that Ocean Studios, who used to do Dragon Ball Z back in the days when Funimation was first starting out. And
It's over 9,000!
That's Ocean. That's Ocean you can thank for.
As well
And
as, well
as
as,
such,
as well as the late 90s and early 2000s Transformers series.
yes, we don't like to talk about that. Anyway, so if you do decide to watch the dub, expect a voice cast you've probably never heard of before, unless you watch stuff like Card Fight Vanguard and Future Card Buddy Fight, because that's the cast list they had.
Or Shades, if I may also provide an example, or if you've also played the later Mega Man X games in the case of Hajime.
Hajime from 8, yep.
Yep. Now, with that in mind, I'd also like to point out that I feel like there was a bet to see who can come up with the most ridiculous name for episode titles.
Right?
And because I am incredibly spiteful, as we go through the episodes, I'm going to read off each of the names of the episodes, starting with the first one. Sometimes a bond can bloom from the first day eye contact is made.
Or, in Japanese, Tomeatta sono hi kara kizuna no hanasaku koto mo aru.
You know, we've always joked about how episode titles in Japanese anime can get ridiculous. English translators, you didn't have to keep that trope.
Right? You didn't have
You know, I'm glad they did.
I'm sure you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, just while we have read the first episode title card just now, let me put it to you this way. Every stinger has the episode card for the next title. And chances are, for 80% of this anime, you're coming out of the fucking ending feeling like your heart has been stomped on by the entirety of every man who hit Normandy on D-Day.
Yep.
So, having this little bit of levity is a palate cleanser before you go back into the fucking trenches.
It's a much needed palate cleanser.
Now, you know how we've said that I've said that when it comes to television, the writer is more important than the director. That's not to say that the director isn't important, just on a scale thing. There are several directors throughout that get cycled in and out, and in a few episodes you have multiple directors all at once. Which I can only imagine how much of a logistical nightmare it is to have multiple directors of one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But our first introduction, first off, before we introduce any characters, I'd like to point out the city that this takes place, Sugomori City, which reminds me a lot of the town where Persona 3 takes place in terms of it being split between a bridge, like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and Sugomori, honestly, is a character in and of itself. One that's ever present, because it's where they live, but there's a feeling to it, an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's because of the type of city it is. Like, it's not just some made-up town. There's a reason why this city is the way it is.
Yeah, there's a narrative
learn.
explanation for it.
But
And yeah, I can very much see this being similar to Iwato Dai.
Moreover, everything within the city has very much a futurism vibe. Almost like the kind of thing that Walt wanted to make with Epcot.
Uh-huh.
Up to and including the drawbridge that connects it to the mainland. Instead of drawing up one side or drawing up the other, it draws up in a very sinister-looking X.
Yeah.
But our opening deals with our protagonist of sorts, Katsuhiro Agata, who is not able to feel emotions or feel pain, and usually ends up getting bullied for lunch money because of it. And his mindset is, well, if they just keep hitting me, eventually they'll get it. So why bother?
Monk, there is something we have to mention before that. The cold open to episode 1 features a young boy running through a corridor, running towards someone or something that we keep flashing to. What looks to be a young girl with a shining light on her neck, standing on top of a bunch of playground equipment stacked on top of each other in a very precarious way. And as the young boy runs out into the open clearing seeing this girl, he begs for her to give it to stop, to not do what she does and give him back his pain. And she's like, "Don't worry, if it's you, I'm sure you'll get it back." And she falls. Then we move to our erstwhile deadpan MC, Katsuhiro Agata.
Mm-hmm.
Who in the sub is voiced by Yuki Kaji.
And let's see what a...
Oh, how about Issei Hyoda?
And he's had a lot. I'm not going to go through all of what he's done. Just say he's got a lot under his thing, but if I have to use something a little bit more relevant to our interests, he was Seiya in Negretsuko.
He's also Todoroki in Hiroaka.
Mm-hmm. So, but his
Eric. Well, no. Here's a big one for people who should know it. Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal. Moving on.
But later on in that, he ends up meeting a girl named Norio Sonozaki, which Shades you'll appreciate.
Noriko.
Yeah, Noriko. I'm sorry. You'll appreciate this. I ended up making a gag of never trust anybody named Sonozaki ever.
Where's the lie?
Yeah.
Raito, you don't count.
No, the best boy does not count.
But,
Hold on. I need to hit a button for this when it comes to this comment. I've got to hit this button.
Let me just analyze that. No lies detected.
Thank you, Blampier.
So, she's voiced by Hibiko Yamamura, who, if we want names again, Mizuchi from Beastars, from a previous Parliament, Seven Knights Revolution hero successor, she played Faria. She plays Nanami Kuon in Your Boy Kongming. And she even plays one of the two deuteragonists from My Master Has No Tail, Bunko.
She's also Raksha Rish in ReZero.
Yep. And she definitely does a good job at being the cold bitch. Especially since she brings up several of the classmates and basically the cast with the 7 deadly sins, but not the ones we're familiar with, but a Japanese setup of them. The imbecile, the goody two-shoes, the musclehead thug, the eccentric head case, the two-faced normie, the high and mighty,
The immoralist.
the immoralist.
Which is very fitting given what character that's attached to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those of you who might want a little more, I guess, context behind these names, Gudon we already covered, and that was Katsuhira, and that is the imbecile. Mm-hmm. But for someone like, say, the muscle-headed thug, the literal Japanese is Nokin Dokyun, and it's spelled DQN for Dokyun, because it stands for delinquent. Literally, muscle-brained delinquent. Or, for our eccentric head case, Fushigi Menhera. Anyone who's into idols will know exactly what Menhera means. It's short for mental health, and it means someone's crazy. And Fushigi is usually mysterious, so the mysterious mental health patient.
Yes.
And then of course with our favorite boy, Hisomu. Inmoraru, literally immoral. And you'll see why in a bit.
Yes. Find out. We'll soon learn.
Some of these sins are so bad they don't even get the Japanese version. But I've seen some people describe Katsuhira early on as apathetic. I don't think that quite fits, because it's more that it's just a case of don't open, dead inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does understand. He does understand and can feel and can relate to others. It's just he is incapable of expressing any of his own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd actually like to stop you guys there. We know for a fact that Katsuhira doesn't relate to others well when he makes that whole "I've been thinking and then leaves the voicemail for Chidori. So
yeah, fair. But the general idea is there.
He processes everything through pure logic. So relation is hard for him.
Yeah.
But after that meeting with Sonozaki, he gets rewarded with a push down the flight of stairs.
Which should have killed him!
We'll get to that.
Yes.
This whole thing, we then get the trippiest emergency room visit ever, surrounded by 4 mascots known as Gomorin. And they are taking him into a room where there's Sonozaki again. And she's like, hooray, you're all connected as Kiznaivers. And they're like, what the hell does that mean? And she's like, it means you all share your pain.
Or, to make a joke of it, it just means pain. Pretty much pain.
To explain the word Kiznaiver, it's, how does it go? Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
I do have to say it this time, Flutter. Put your motherfucking head back down.
You're getting ahead of yourself there, bud.
But how do we put it, Shades? Japanese wordplay.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Exactly. Kiznaiver is a combination of kizuna, which is a word for bonds, and kizu, which is a word for scars or wounds. And then you put your normal ver on the end because they were doing a Sentai joke.
How do you think they got Guyver? Hey, folks, how do you think they got Guyver in the first place?
Also, if you listen closely, you can hear the sound of Flutter's brain just exploding.
But she's like, you're all connected by your wounds. So literally, a Kiznaiver means you've bonded to people because you share pain. And she says, and Katsuhira unfortunately jumped down the stairs. Bitch lies straight to everyone.
Lies right through her fucking teeth.
But now,
and right off the bat, bitch.
Yeah. And one thing I do have to say, our erstwhile other Kiznaivers include Katsuhira's childhood friend Chidori Takashiro, who has been constantly worried about him and wishes he would worry about himself as well.
Yes.
Katsuhira's new friend, who promised he'd protect him from his bullies for 20% of everything they'd ever taken from him, Hajime Tenga.
30, and then 35, and then 40.
50.
Don't fucking just give me your money now.
Yeah. We have the girl who tries to talk to fairies, Nico Niyama, who's covered in the most glorious trigger colorful spangles that you've ever seen. This is what Shades was mentioning earlier about a character that is clearly trigger.
Yeah, if you look at the small group of characters I've posted here, not the two big ones, that's our mains, but if you look on the very left of that group, you see her, and you can't miss her.
You can't fucking miss her. She
kind of stands out.
Oh yeah, like she sticks out like a sore fucking thumb.
Then we have a guy who looks normal, except for his foxish smile, Sugihito Yuta. And finally, another cold bitch, but in a different way, the heavy-chested Honokamaki with her glasses. And
who are all respectively voiced by Yuka Terasaki, Tomoaki Maeno, Misaki Kuno, Nobunaki Shimazaki, Rina Sato, and Kotaro Nishiyama.
Well, we haven't gotten to Nishiyama's character yet, but I've at least recognized one of those names because I've heard some work from Tomoaki Maeno.
Mm-hmm.
There are.
I do as well. I'm familiar with at least two characters that Yuka Terasaki has voiced: Sasha Krutsev in A Certain Magical Index, and Luna in 5Ds.
Yep.
Nuts. Sorry.
But the big thing here is you'll notice one character hasn't been named yet, and we'll get there. Oh, we will get there.
Oh, we'll get to that.
But they're told they share pain with him, and understandably, all of them are like, "Are you fucking high, lady?" and choose to leave. And Chidori tries to take Katsuhira, as she commonly does, and he's like, "But I want to learn about stuff, so I'm going to stay here." And she's like, "Fine." And they leave. And they're given their leave to go wherever they want to get out of this weird hospital they're in that doesn't seem to have anybody else in it, while Katsuhira talks to them. And finally, we see Nico peering around the crack of an open door, looking for what she calls the sleep fairy, who throws sand in your eyes and it hurts, and then you fall asleep. Because it's clearly a dream, because everybody else are just background characters in her dreams.
Mr.
Tenga comes.
Sandman!
Give me a dream.
At that point, Tenga goes, "Even if I try to grope you, and makes like he's gonna grope her, and she smacks him across the face, and everybody's like, they all
Everyone
flinch.
Luger cells. Ouch!
Yeah, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? And Chidori's like, no way, and smacks herself one, and everyone's like, bah! Wait a minute, what are you doing? And then she punches herself one, and everybody gets hit again, and then we have one of the. I swear, Trigger threw all of the budget for this on the fucking music. No, I think Trigger just threw I don't know how they did this. I don't know what the budget for this was.
Words and words.
A load of money.
The Sakuga. There's so much Sakuga. Even the opening of their Kizuna. Because all of a sudden, their left arms, start glowing. Mm-hmm. Or was it the right arm? No, it was the left arm. I'm pretty sure it was the left arm. Yep. And as they glow, they bulge out and blood shoots into the air. And there's this glowing scar-shaped stigma, best way to put it, around their wrist. And they're all looking at it like, what the fuck is this shit? And they're given their first mission. Chiko Shokai. Self-introductions.
Yes.
But much like the Who Are You from B5, you can't just say your name and that's the introduction. Which brings us into episode 2, titled, If You Can Swallow a Bizarre Situation Like This So Easily, 2 buckets of barium shouldn't be a problem.
I remember that during that particular card at the end of that episode, 2 buckets of barium should be a problem, and then I forget who said it in response. That's going to make going to the bathroom a problem later.
I think it was me.
Oh yeah.
No, it was also somebody in the episode.
Oh, right. One of our titular Kiznaiver.
Because barium is an alkaline metal. Why you would swallow 2 buckets of that, I have no idea.
You want to poison yourself?
Drugs.
Well, it is used to kill rats. So
true.
So you're not too far off with that, Maddie. But the thing is,
barium is also used for some medical imaging.
Yeah. Anyway, but the introduction and the reality of the introduction is something that is some sort of secret that they keep guarded. And if they don't do the self-introduction, the hospital will start suffering a really bad case of explosions.
Yes. Not only that, every time they answer incorrectly or don't answer within 10 minutes, since Katsuhira is still strapped down with Sonozaki, she hits him with literal cattle prods, which of course, since he's connected to everybody else,
hot, 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 hot.
And this is a case where we get one of the gags of Trigger. We get to see everybody shocked and making different poses while they're being shocked, and it's all fun and games until Honokomaki asks, what happens if we don't answer everything and he keeps getting shocked? Sonozaki's only answer? Dead end.
A dead end game.
And from bitch to see you next Tuesday, if you know what I mean.
Okay, Zan, if I may take their respective fears.
Go ahead.
So, the fears that they confess, in order. Hajime has cynophobia, which is the fear of dogs and canines in general. Nico reveals a disbelief in fairies, Yuta is exposed for being overweight, for having childhood obesity, which I can relate to, for a toothbrush award. Outside of the building, Katsuhira introduces himself as someone who feels nothing, while inside a crate attached to a crane. When Chidori makes a love confession, he suddenly feels happiness and reintroduces himself as someone slowly learning his own feelings. Afterwards, Honoka drops a fucking bombshell of having killed someone.
Which
Go ahead, Monk.
there's a bit of context I want to put in with some of them. One of them is with Nico, is that she wants to be known as the weird one.
Yeah.
Well, and to expand upon that, Nico wants to be known as the weird one because, in reality, she's actually just exceptional. She's got, she's got parents who own a hospital and are rather well off. She gets good grades all the time and can comprehend her studies easily. And the things she's interested in, she's good at. And so she doesn't want to be hated for being exceptional. So she'd rather be hated for being weird.
Yep. And
basically, Nico is a textbook case of what's normalcy and can I eat it?
No, the thing is the whole that I was trying to get at is the whole being weird thing is a fake.
Fake.
Right, yeah, it's a facade.
A smoke screen, if you will.
Yes.
Whereas with Yuta, the reason why he's so embarrassed about how fat he was is Yuta is a fucking player. He is a motherfucking pimp.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He is
quite
a
the
sex
ladies' man.
symbol, ladies and gentlemen.
Even to the
Actually,
point
if
where
I
they
may
gave
make a
him
riff-
even to the point where they gave him the smile twinkle.
Mm-hmm. But
If I may make a riff, if this were Boondocks, he would be christened as a pimp named Utah.
okay,
Fair.
but
Can't hide that one.
the context behind Yuta's particular complex it wasn't just childhood obesity because of anything health related. He was a latchkey kid. For those of you who don't know, that means that's a kid that's basically unattended even when they're home from school because their parents are off working. He was
He's always alone.
Yep. He's always alone, and it's implied that he may have been eating his feelings as a child. Which
stress eating.
not the most healthy thing. But then he finally took hold of his flagging self discipline, made the effort to slim down and shape up before high school, and had his high school debut, which is a common trope amongst Japanese stories. But we're not talking about the high school debut such as Emergence. That's not the type of high school debut we're talking about.
No, but it does explain his story, and as someone who's done plenty of manga dubs where they've had that story, I totally see this. It's the high school glow-up that they tend to have.
Yep.
But it also explains why he became such a ladies' man in high school, is that he wanted to surround himself with people so that he never felt alone anymore.
Not only that, he wanted to surround himself with girls that he never would have had a chance with back when he was younger.
Yes, his new stature solidifies him as a social butterfly of sorts.
Yeah. And so, with that, Tenga, his context is less like he's scared of dogs, and he thinks it's ridiculous that anyone would know he's scared of dogs because they call him the Mad Dog of Sugimori City because he's so wild and rambunctious. It's not a lot of context, and it's not really necessary.
Isn't that fucking ironic, though?
I'm willing to bet that's more of a obscure Mad Dog Rashawn joke. I'm willing to bet someone was watching Mad Dog Rashawn matches one day.
All right, Maddie, I'm calling your card on that one. That was forced.
Had to.
That was forced.
That was forced.
I will simply note that I don't think it applies because we didn't see any haven't seen any footage of Tenga looking out of an open plane in the middle of the air.
Yeah.
Very fair. Very
True.
fair.
Yeah.
And then Chidori's confession, her love confession, was not a love confession in the present. It's I loved you, Katsuhira, not I love you.
It's in the it's not in the present tense, it's very much in the past tense.
Man, that's an echo.
God damn it. You make me hit the damn button again.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
I have a hard time of breaking habits.
And
That's why
this
we have
is-
the button to kind of force you to.
And
If
I
we
thank
break-
you for that.
If we break the button tonight, that's going to be an issue, but okay.
If it happens, it's coming out of your pay, Flutter.
Understood.
But then the biggest confession besides, well, the obvious one, Katsuhira's confession is one that he said not only does he, he didn't really care about what was happening, it was because he has no interest in himself either. But then
It's
after...
the lowest self-esteem one could have.
I don't think it's not even a lack of self-esteem. It's just he just has no interest. It is because of the ability to, or the inability, I should say, to feel much. He's grown, because he's so analytical, he's grown apathetic to many things, including his own situation. And then after Chidori makes her confession about having loved him, he's like, I'd like to revise it. And he's like, while I still don't have a lot of interest in myself, I'd like to find out more about myself. And then we get to Honoka.
He gets a spark of inquisitiveness, but anyway.
Anyway, on to Honoka.
Honoka says she's murdered somebody, and that's where the episode ends.
Yep.
Quite the thought provoker. Like, what the fuck did she do?
Fucking wham shot, am I right?
Now,
see you next week, kids. Here's your mood whiplash pile driver.
Now, episode 3 is titled, depending how you look at it, I think we could get through anything, right?
Or in Japanese, どんなに散々はな状況だって捉え方次第でなんとかやっていけるかもね. And at the beginning, she says her line again, and she's like, I'm obviously joking, you guys. And Sonozaki's like, I'll allow it. And so they all win their Jiko Shokai mission, and they go their separate ways. Except for Tenga, who decides to live in Katsuhira's apartment.
As his roommate.
And his bodyguard.
Yes!
I will be your protector!
For that money, that was, 50% now. Wasn't it 20%, says Katsuhira?
It doesn't matter what percentage it was. Also, for those who are thinking Whitney Houston, you're not alone.
But the next mission that we end up getting is simply find number 7.
Now, before they get the mission, though, what happens is they all have a spark of pain. At least Katsuhira in his apartment along with Tenga, and then later they find out Chidori, who is his next-door neighbor. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh man, this is, like, Tenga even says, man, this is the perfect setup for high school hijinks. Pain
isn't just one and done. It lingers throughout the fucking day.
Flutter.
Cut off Zan there.
My mistake. Anyway.
But Tenga decides he's going to jump over to Chidori, and the rest of them are like, fuck you, what the shit, man? And he makes it. He actually makes it. And then he slips backwards. And he falls and hurts himself. And they all, as they're walking to school, are like, man, that hurt. And Tenga's like, man, this still hurts. Because he basically landed on his wrist after falling 3 stories. And they're like, wait, it still hurts for you? He's like, yeah, it still hurts for me. Doesn't it hurt for you guys? They're like, no, we don't feel anything. And so they come to determine that it's the initial pain everybody feels. The lingering secondary pain, it remains only with the person who actually experienced the wound. Then they get another spark of pain. And they see the numbers D7. And they're like, that wasn't any of us, because I saw D5 when Tenga fell last time. Or was it D2? I think he was D2.
Yeah.
Yeah, D2, and then Chidori's like, I see D5, and they're like, well, then who's D7? I thought there were only 6 of us. And that's when they get the mission, find the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Noriko being, are you sure about that?
And the thing is, all throughout the day, they end up randomly feeling a jolt of pain. And I should note, when we talk about audio identity, that applies just as much to sound design as it does to soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And there is a very distinct audio cue anytime the Kizna system activates and everybody else starts feeling pain.
Yes.
It almost sounds, if I had to combine 2 different sounds. The sound of the codec opening in Metal Gear Solid V combined with some radio static.
Yeah.
That's fairly close, actually. I was thinking
It
definitely
is.
the codec for sure, but it was something else. Definitely static.
Yeah.
Yep. And anytime anybody gets hurt, first there's also a visual cue. The actual screen takes on a fuzz with a little bit of a cyan glow to it from time to time.
Yes.
I'm not
And-
going to say it, Shades. I'm not going to say it.
But once they keep feeling this pain, they all, at one of their breaks, convene to decide how they're going to do this. Some of them go around asking questions. Are you the 7th Kiznaiver? Thank you, Tenga, for being retarded. Whereas Yuta's like, we got to be smarter about this, and Honoko's like, we're all going to look crazy if you're not careful. And so, Nico, being as smart as she actually is, says, I'm going to hit Katsuhira just a little bit, because everybody's been feeling like these dull pains, and see if anybody in the class reacts. And nobody does. And so at that point, Yuta is like, well, there's one guy who never comes to school, and his name is Yoshiharu Hisomu.
And apparently,
my boy,
he's in
he's
the
told me.
same. Apparently, he's in the same apartment complex as Rei Ayanami.
Yeah, the apartment complex he's in looks much more brutalist. It looks like you're in the middle of a communist brutalism block. And when they get to it,
Go ahead.
when they get to his apartment, the actual front door is gross. There's a bunch of mail shoved into the mail slot and trash out in front. And they start talking to each other, wondering about things. Nico says she's seen him in her parents' hospital before. And Chidori is like, is he being bullied? And Yuta, being the asshole that he actually is like, he could actually be doing insurance fraud. And, but they keep knocking, and they're like, nobody's home. And then, I forget who smacks whom. But I think someone smacks Katsuhira, and they hear a weird yelp. And Tenga's like, what's with the weird yelp, Yuta? And Yuta's like, it wasn't me. And they all look at the door. And it's the chase is on. They're using pain as an echolocator to find this guy. And they see him. And Yuta hates him on sight because, holy shit, he's a natural ikemen. I fucking hate this. I have to work to look hot. Why can't you just be ugly? Yes, that is Yuta's thought.
Yeah.
But we get a series of very hilarious scenes of him running away from them, and then it's always Tenga turning to punch Katsuhira. And at one point, they're in a shopping, they're in a grocery store, and they see him literally skating around on a shopping cart. And just as Tenga is about to punch Katsuhira to stop the guy, Chidori stops him and says, I want you to punch me instead, because I want to feel what Katsuhira's feeling. And then the neighborhood watch shows up, technically. It's a bunch of older ladies who are actually women's rights advocates, and trying to get battered women out of bad situations. As Tenga's like, I really can't hit you. And she's like, no, I really want you to hit me. And he rears back, and they're like, what were you about to do to that girl? But she asked me for it. You're an abusive man! And she's like, no, really, I want him to do it. And they're like, oh no, honey, you're already caught in the cycle of abuse! and as everybody is trying to extricate themselves from this situation, Katsuhira goes outside to follow Hisomu. And he finds him on an overpass. And he's like, I want to help you. Why do you want to help me? I don't know, I just feel like I should. Well, would you help me even if I told you to die? and tells him, he almost pushes him off of the overpass before the rest of the Kiznaivers show up. And Hisomu keeps crossing, and Tenga's like, we just gotta hit him with enough pain to stop him. And Tenga gets up on the rails, and he's like, I'm gonna jump. And he gets scared. And then Katsuhira jumps off the other side. Woo! And he pings off of a fucking box truck and into someone's convertible. And of course, Hisomu falls the fuck down. They all do for a second, but Hisomu even more so. He's face down on the ground.
Yeah.
Everybody goes over to see Hisomu, except for Chidori, who is worried sick that Katsuhira would just jump like that without really considering anything. Mm-hmm. And as Hisomu. As like, I remember you guys were like wondering if he was okay, and I was like, you guys are gonna love this scene. As Yuta turns over Hisomu, Hisomu's face is in rapture and ecstasy, and he's got his hand
full blown
Almost
aroused.
as if he came.
Well, no,
damn it,
let
Flutter.
me fucking get there, Flutter.
God.
You're ruining the punchlines, bro.
My apologies.
Well, don't
Hisomu-
fucking do it again.
Understood.
Hisomu has his hand over his crotch, and Tenga, Yuta, and Honoka are all fucking horrified. Yuta most of all, because he's got Hisomu in his arms. He's the one who turned him over. And as they have found the 7th Kiznaiver, they get their celebratory fanfare again of virtual confetti that comes out of their wrists. Except it's Hisomu's hand is over his crotch. All the confetti comes out. And oh my god, is that, that's a pearl necklace for everyone, isn't it? and it even tops off the fanfare sound with Hisomu's moans of ecstasy.
And in conclusion,
Jizz in my pants.
And in conclusion, penis, penis, penis. This is a case where everybody knew exactly what they were doing.
Yes. This was intentionally set up perfectly.
Also,
Because-
Seiyu Kotaro Nishiyama.
Yeah. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Hisomu has. Oh fuck it, he's a masochist.
Yes.
Full
He
blown
is full blown masochist.
And
Yes.
I want to point out that because of the whole 7 deadly sins thing, even though they were using the quote unquote Japanese 7 deadly sins, I was trying to make parallels one way or the other. Here's the funny part. Until Hisomu showed up, I had thought that lust was going to be Yuta.
Because of the player aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monk got everyone else right. He did get sloth on Katsuhira. He got envy on Chidori. He got pride on Honoka.
Yep.
He got wrath on Tenga. And he got greed.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't get gluttony, and he didn't get lust. I'm surprised he didn't get gluttony, considering that what we knew about Yuta's past.
Yeah.
I think it's because at the time I made that prediction, I wasn't seeing enough that really said gluttony.
There weren't
Understandably.
many context clues.
Well, Monk, I'd like to shift your perspective to see if this would have made more sense if you could have seen the perspective shift. We knew his past as a kid who was obese, and we know that he's constantly trying to get girls around himself. It doesn't seem for any actual lustful things, but just so he can have them. He's trying to eat more and more.
Phrasing.
Yeah.
I know what I said.
And I know I'm going to keep saying phrasing.
Yep.
Which, to preface Maddie's use of phrasing, when we were watching this, and whenever Hisomu showed up and acted like he acts, we had to put a momentary moratorium on the term phrasing whenever he did shit like that.
Yes.
He was a walking phrasing. That's what it was.
He
Yes.
was.
Just
was.
like with Record of Ragnarok and Aphrodite, and how we had to put a moratorium on the brought to you by tits this was phrasing is on moratorium for now.
Yeah, because it was getting to the point where we would end up if we kept it, we would have ended up using it like 2 or 3 times an episode and just run it into the ground.
Yeah.
But then we get to episode 4, known as Now That We're All Connected, Let's Get to Know Each Other Better, okay?
Or, in Japanese, Sekkaku tsunagari atanda shi sa motto wa otogai wakari o aoyon.
Yeah. We have the fact that...
Show off.
Thank you.
That Hisomu, he really, really enjoys dangerous and unexpected pain. The surprise pain. And, you know, I would make a joke about surprise butt sex, but he ends up leaning that way anyways. I
Yes,
know what
he does.
I said.
It's more than that, Monk. Remember that one of his examples is, I wish the Kizuna, the Kizuna system had connected me to a bunch of farm-grown tuna, so I could feel those bodies bashing against each other all the time in such a small space. And we were like, Hisomu, never change.
Hisomu is best Kiznaiver.
I'm not gonna say best, but I will say he definitely brings his
He's
own
one
energy.
of the best. He's one
He
of the
is.
best.
Yeah, he is his own chaotic energy, and it is lovely.
Yeah.
Yes, he is our agent of chaos in the
Now,
cast.
the next mission involves them going to a summer camp as a resort because, well, its summer vacation is coming up soon, and I'd like to point out that their teacher,
Which one? Urushibaru or Yamada?
Yamada,
Okay.
has a very interesting way of doing the summer vacation announcement. Aside from the fact that he always seems to have one of those masks that people wear on when they want to fall asleep, which I never understood the point of. I've never worn those things.
Eye masks.
Yeah. He's got one of those on all the time. And his whole thing is make sure that make sure that even during summer break you study, and if you're going to get into any romance, make sure to get it on camera at least. Which,
Make some money, brah.
Which, if I may, that part of his personality makes the casting choice they made for him in the sub absolutely perfect. His seiyuu is Junichi Suwabe.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. I am the bone of my sword himself.
Mm-hmm.
he's also dandy.
He is dandy, but Monk, for an even deeper cut that involves you and me, I will grant your wish, Kamui. Junichi Suwabe was Fumamono.
I fucking got that too. What the fuck?
Fuck you, man. Fuck you. But this is also one of those cases where you have a moment that would be very tricky to translate into English.
Yeah.
Because to try and liven things up during the bus ride, Nico decides to play a rhyming game with everybody.
They decide to play Shiritori, the Japanese word chain game.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have the episode in front of me right now, just so I can read how this goes.
Oh boy.
It's not Nico who decides it, it's Tenga.
Yeah.
As a way to try and help Midori get closer to Katsuhira, because Tenga thinks that, well, Sonozaki's a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that they're sitting in the bus, they're 4 on each side because Noriko is joining them. And on one side, you've got Tenga, then Nico, then Yuta, then Hisomu. Then on the other side, you've got Noriko, Katsuhira, Chidori, and Honoka. And it'll go from Tenga down to Hisomu, across to Noriko, and then ostensibly back up to Honoka. That is not how this turns out. So, the way Shiritori always starts, the person starting the chain says Shiritori, and the next word must begin with the phoneme of the last word in the previous in the previous answer. So the next word needs to start with ri. And so Nico goes rirei senshu, or relay runner. And senshu is 2 kana. It doesn't sound like it, but it's shi with yu. So Yuta starts with yu no hana, which are a type of flower called geyserites. And then Hisomu says Nageki no Ushi because it's a torture device. It's the brazen bull for anyone who's asking. And then we get to Noriko. Hienburun Kyuden, or Shenbrun Palace. Now, the rules of Shiritori are: the next word must begin with the phoneme of the last word. You must answer within 30 seconds, and no word can end with the particle n. But Kyuden does. So she loses. That stops the Shiritori. We go to the next word chain. Nico goes Ryori Kenkyuka, which is cooking specialist. And Yuta goes Kanami, wire mesh. And Hisomu goes Mizuzeme, water torture. Hisomu,
Because yes, he does, folks. Yes,
never
he does.
change.
Never question Hisomu.
And then Noriko goes melon. And it once again ends in N, or N. It ends in the N particle. And, well, the chain ends. And then she modifies it to melon pan, which is melon bun, but it still ends in N.
So, sandbagging.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't actually want to play the game.
But this is could you possibly make this work in English? Yeah, but it'd be really tricky to do it.
Actually, that makes me question what they did in English. Give me a second.
Ooh. We may have an answer.
Okay. So they actually use shiritori as the beginning word even in English.
Wow!
Hold on. And then Nico says relay runner. And then Yuta says erratics, as an erratic person.
Fair.
And then Hisomu. Oh no! No, really? Really? This is more esoteric than the brazen bull.
What does he say?
Scavenger's daughter, also known as Skevington's gyves. It's an iron shackle, or the Spanish A-frame.
Oh my fucking god!
They still kept the theme. So he says.
It's so thematic.
So he says Scavenger's daughter, and Noriko says eradication, which ends in n.
So by some miracle they managed to keep a rhyming game that is very Japanese and would be difficult to translate.
Mm-hmm. But here's round 2. Nico says ridiculousness, which figures.
Yeah, that tracks.
What does Yuta say here? Semi-raw.
Semi-raw?
Semi-raw. I don't know why he says it, but goddamn. And then I know why he said semi-raw, so they could keep Hisomu saying water torture. And then Noriko says reaction.
Which again ends in
Hold on. And then she once again edits her answer from reaction to reassign.
Which both end in
So
yep,
props to the translation
props
team.
to Ocean.
They did their homework on this. They learned the rules of the rules of the game, and while they couldn't use the original words used in the sub, they found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
That they
The
did.
only original word they used was shiritori.
Yeah, was the name of the game.
That
Which
and
is how the
water
game's
torture because Hisomu gonna Hisomu.
Yeah,
We stand Hisomu in this house.
Yeah.
that we do.
Oh yeah.
But in the process of this, Nico does advise everyone to exchange email address as a step forward. Once again, Nico being the forward thinker of the group.
And then
But-
she laughs at Honoka because Honoka previously implied they couldn't be friends. And she's like, but you've shared email. You wouldn't share email addresses with just your acquaintances, would you?
She's got her there.
Gotcha, bitch.
But this is also where some of the seeds regarding some of the relationship triangles start showing up, especially since it's a summer camp resort. They're in what's
An izakaya.
an izakaya, and was also revealed is that the two bullies at the start, Kamaishi and Yoshizawa, the bulk and skull of this story.
They're fucking
They
salty.
are.
They are one, yes. B, oh yeah, they're fucking salty.
Because they got because of the whole getting their ass kicked. But they've been quote unquote recruited into the Kiznaiver program themselves.
But only with each other.
Yeah.
Which brings us to episode 5. Wahoo, it's a training camp. Let's step in deer poop and have pillow fights. Go, go.
Or in Japanese, Yahoi Gashikuda! Shikano funde makuranage shite go go!
But
There you go.
this is also where as this kind of thing has gone on, Hajime has revealed another role besides being the musclehead, and that being the attempt to be the wingman.
Yeah.
Specifically for Chidori.
But a misunderstanding causes Chidori to run away, which ends up resulting in a test of courage because it's a summer segment in an anime.
It's a summer episode, folks. You know the drill.
Yeah.
And this is also where Noriko ends up introducing Yamada and Urushibara as members of the Kizna committee, and where we start to get more of the fact that the whole city has been one giant experiment ground for the Kiznaiver project.
And the Kizna system as a result.
A good side note here before their test of courage begins. Yuta helped make the meal that they had earlier in the day, but he couldn't eat nearly any of it because of his diet. Honoka catches him in the middle of the night looking for him making a simple meal because he's still hungry. And she attempts to seduce him, even saying, "It's not like you're a virgin or anything." And he
Yeah,
is.
about that.
Yeah.
So
But she even says, what was the line?
I don't care if I break.
Exactly.
Which is some 4D level foreshadowing.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody remember that phrase for later.
Plot point.
But she does say that she doesn't even care if she breaks, and then makes fun of him for not taking advantage of the situation. And then they all get summoned for the test of courage and the Gomorin attack.
Yep.
Because of course they do.
And I was making Dead by Daylight jokes because they had the unmitigated gall to have one of the Gomorin pull off a Texas Chainsaw reference.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, one of them was a guy with an axe in his head, too.
Yeah. Fair point.
But because Chidori ran off earlier when she saw Noriko and Katsuhira talking, and Noriko slaps him because a mosquito lands on him. She runs off, and when she does run off, Katsuhira says he didn't feel slapped, but he acts almost like he felt something.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't say what.
Yeah, he doesn't really say anything. But the test of courage is save Chidori, basically. Go find her and save her.
Mm-hmm.
And Chidori is not doing well. She's emotionally distraught. She's running from some gomorin. She's hurt herself and is kind of hobbling. And she finds the izakaya's essentially woodshed and tries to hide in it despite being chased. Her fear and her anxiety start to resonate through the Kizuna. In fact, this entire time, what we've seen with the Kizuna is when people suffer pain, they flash blue for a second and then they get the number. The Kizuna turn yellow this time. And everybody starts talking about how
is not like the others.
this is true. All of the different Kiznaivers start talking about how they're feeling a strange, like, whirling feeling. Nico literally says moya moya in their stomach. That it feels like they're sick to their stomachs, almost. And they literally use this feeling as a homing radar to try and find Chidori. And eventually, Katsuhira finds Chidori first, after she's been pushed into the shed and chased by Kamaishi, who then talks about how he fucking hates being friends with, well, the guy he's always been attached to just because they've been childhood friends. And that he would have gone to a different school if they weren't childhood friends, and he would have been in a better life. And Chidori's like, yeah, well, I don't care. You've hurt him way too much. And Katsuhira eventually overhears her ranting about how much they've hurt him. And he realizes that she's felt bad when he's gotten hurt. And the other Kiznaivers also show up. And everybody realizes that there's this big spiel that Chidori just made. And Katsuhira is like, well, I guess I wasn't alone in my pain. I thought I was. And with that, they finish their test of courage, and he helps hike her back to the izakaya, at least most of the way. And with that, episode 5 ends.
Mm-hmm. Now, that brings us to episode 6, titled, Nothing Good Comes from Being Around All of You.
Anta tachi to iru to hontou ni rokuna koto ga nai.
And we've built up rapport with almost everybody else. It's time to build rapport with the one person who's been the most guarded up until this point.
That being Honoka.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Now, I do need to flash back to episode 2 because we didn't mention it for some reason. In episode 2, Honoka was lost in the hospital away from everybody else. And she eventually hits the morgue. And when she gets to the morgue, there's a lot of the refrigerators have empty markers, but there's one that has a marker. And it says Charles DeMacking.
Or Shararu de Maki.
Well, Shararu de Makingu.
Yes.
Yeah. And when she gets there, the refrigerator next to the one with this marker opens up, and a high school-aged girl pops out, and you start hearing some girl, telling Maki to break. And this is important because at the beginning of episode 6, we have Honoka in middle school with a cheerful girl named Ruru. And it's a flashback to her having a friend and being worried about her and talking about their hopes, essentially.
Worried, understandably so, because a good friend would be worried about their other friend.
Thank you for holding yourself back, Flutter.
You're welcome. You're very much welcome.
So, with that in mind, when we flash forward to the present, we get some information from Noriko about how the Kiznaivers were successfully able to connect the pain in their emotions, in their hearts. And after they get back...
Fan, that is not unrelated. That is directly related. Apologies for cutting you off, Zan, but
yeah, I see what that's bringing up, and the point of origin of voice actors is not relevant.
It's more the studio.
It's very irrelevant. Yes, it's more the dubbing studio than anything else.
Yeah.
But after they all get back from their summer vacation, their summer camp at least, I should say. The summer vacation hasn't ended yet. Oh no, it hasn't ended yet. No reason. Just ignore my laughter. But they all meet up at Katsuhira's apartment beside Maddie.
Discord delay. That's a Discord delay problem.
Yeah.
But Yuta is the only one who hasn't shown up at Katsuhira's apartment, where everybody is now hanging out trying to talk to each other, and they're about to have hot pot even. And Honoka decides to leave early. And she's kind of in a fit. She's not very happy about what's going on. And then we cut to Yuta at a restaurant with the two girls that are always around him, looking at a Yuri manga written by the pen name Charles DeMacking.
Setup, payoff.
Not quite yet. They keep talking about this manga, The Promise Made Under Heaven, and they come to a line. He's like, "Hey, do you guys really like this thing?" And he's flipping through it, and he comes to a line. The line, Monk?
I don't care if I break.
Written and in the same way that Honoka said it in the two episodes prior.
Not only that, but the way it's framed in the manga ends up mirroring the framing in a previous episode,
where Honoka had pushed him down onto his back. Yeah. And Yuta realizes that it's something. He connects the dots, and then he also feels some pain, and he looks out the window, and he sees Honoka approached by someone. And so she's approached by the editor of something who wants to get the rights to produce her manga as a movie. And he starts talking about The Promise Under Heaven. And Yuta stops him, but Honoka runs off. And so Yuta goes and visits Katsuhira and everybody and says, "Hey, yeah, Honoka used to be a manga author for The Promise Under Heaven, along with another girl." But then they get their assignment. And their assignment? Save Honoka Maki. And she gets a different assignment. Attend summer classes. And when she arrives at the school, there's a TV crew who has already been approved by her editor to do an interview and a bit of a biopic on her.
Yes.
And the rest of her being there and the TV crew talking to her about being Charles DeMacking causes a bunch of people who have read it back in middle school to be like, "Wait, she's Charles DeMacking?" And the pressure and
her?
Yeah. the pressure and tension start to crash in on her. She starts to have a panic attack, and it hits all the Kiznaivers. And so they show up.
Oh.
Yes, this whole thing. There's been plenty of funny. We've been getting multiple emotional spikes throughout this whole thing at this point, and this is just another one.
Yep.
And the rest of the Kiznaivers show up to run off the TV crew and keep the people away from her. And Hisomu. Now, you guys all may think that Hisomu's just the slightly perverted comic relief character, but Hisomu has always shown a remarkable amount of insight. And it's here that that you start to see more and more that Hisomu, despite his predilections, is actually quite smart.
That he is.
And he has his phone up. He's like, they really like to see TV crews fail on the internet. And the TV crew's like, wait, no, don't do it. And he's like, uploaded. and you get this scream of, oh! From the TV crew director. And then Tenga, being Tenga, says, all right, we cleared the mission. And Maki's like, the mission? And everybody's like, you fucking idiot.
Do you have that button, by the way? The
Give me a minute.
That's appropriate here.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're getting at. Let me just click this. And let's do this. And...
Maddie.
That works. And so she runs off, and as some people start to turn around to go after her, it's Yuta that stops them. But then we cut to Katsuhira, who is sure that all of this has been done, or at least is being overseen by Noriko. And Katsuhira goes into the gymnasium, and above the gymnasium to what looks like a storage hall for larger instruments, where Noriko is playing the piano. And as they're talking, they talk about how this mission felt a little forced. And Noriko asks him, does that make you angry? He says, not angry, but I think I felt a little bit of disdain for you.
He isn't mad, but he is disappointed.
Well, disdain is worse than anger, because disdain is contempt.
Yes, it is.
And regarding someone as inferior.
Uh-huh.
That because she did what she did, he's seeing her as inferior to what he thought of her and what she is compared to the rest of the Kiznaivers, and he feels that disdain at her, that contempt for her lowliness.
Yeah.
Which is it's a powerful statement coming from a guy who can't feel things.
Yeah, no doubt.
But with that, episode 7.
Yep, episode 7. A battle touching upon the identity of the pain that's 7 times the pain of 1/7 of a pain.
Or, 7分の1の痛みのそのまた7倍の正体に震える戦い.
Or Steiner Math, the anime.
Well,
God, I already took your card away, Maddie. Dave!
Shades, if I may. Department of Redundancy department fucking much?
I thought it was the redundant Department of Redundancy.
No, it's Department of Redundancy department.
It's
and
both.
with that, I get to and with that, Monk, I get to tell Flutter, whoosh.
Like a rake. I walked into that like a fucking rake.
Got the
Yes.
button shades?
Oh, I'm just hitting all the buttons today, ladies and gentlemen.
Racing.
Make sure this one's prepped. And
There we go. Now, the implication of this title is actually that they talk about the emotional pain of Honoka that they're feeling when she had that mental break before they arrived. That, remember, all the physical pain is split 7 ways. So is the emotional pain. So that if they weren't there to help mitigate that panic attack, it could have put Honoka into catatonia. Which is...
She would have been committed. Let's put it that way.
It's something, that's for sure. So the beginning of the episode starts with the Kiznaivers visiting Ruru, or at least her family home.
Yes.
To hear about the fact that Honoka was the first person that Lulu ever made friends with. She made friends with Honoka, and they made friends over the fact that one of them could draw but couldn't write a story to save her life, and the other one could write a story but couldn't draw to save her life. So they teamed up, and they created The Promise Under Heaven by Sharuru de Makingu, Ruru Tomaki.
Japanese wordplay. It's fun.
And they learn about how there were interviews and there were all these things that they were doing, but that near the end of the story, Honoka said she couldn't do it anymore, and she left. Or at least that's how Ruru's parents see it. That she abandoned Ruru to do all the work herself, and then die, because Ruru, since birth, was destined to die. She had a kidney disease that was always going to result in her dying young.
A congenital kidney disease.
Yep. And the biggest thing about everything that we learn, not just from the parents, but from Honoka's own musings about her time with Ruru, was Ruru, because she was so close to Honoka, an only friend, started developing actual relationship feelings for her. And Honoka got scared.
Yeah, she got
because
cold.
Not even that. She got scared because she didn't want to get so close to someone she knew she was going to lose.
Oh, right.
She did.
As in, she knew the pain was coming, wanted to avoid it.
Well, not even that. She knew the pain was coming and there was no way to avoid it. She just didn't want it to be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she says she can't do it anymore, and Ruru has to do the last chapter herself. And there are some very intense and intimidating lines that she remembers about Ruru saying, maybe I'll have the terminally ill girl who died in our story, because their story was based a lot on what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Write a letter that is delivered posthumously to the teacher she fell in love with, cursing her to forever love her and no one else. And Honoka was terrified of that threat.
Yes.
Absolutely terrified.
That to put it in even more overt terms, Maki, with that suggestion, put the fucking fear of God into Honoka. Or
No,
Ruru.
Put the fear of God.
I don't think referring to it as fear of God is quite right.
Fair.
It's more that what's revealed throughout all of this is that Honoka has been dealing with essentially survivor's guilt.
Yeah. She feels bad not only because of the fact that she pushed Ruru away so it wouldn't hurt as much when she died, but also because she's the only one left.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Honoka has just stayed in her room the entire time.
She is extremely, despondent, to put it bluntly.
Yeah. And the Kiznaivers go outside of her apartment and try to get her to come out and play. and do fireworks and stuff. You know, stuff you do during the summer with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Nico is very, very concerned for her, which almost gets Honoka to look out the window. Almost. But not quite. And when all of their cheering and concern doesn't get her out, they all eventually go away, except for Yuta, who sits outside reading the last volume of The Promise Under Heaven. And later, because rain starts coming down and now the fireworks aren't going to go so well anymore, Honoka comes out to see Yuta still reading the manga underneath what is essentially a trellis / gazebo with a bench in it outside her apartment. And she comes out and she's like, they start talking about her book. And he's like, have you ever read the last chapter? She's like, I don't have to. I know what it says. And she says the same threat that she felt she had heard from Dudu. And you just like, I get it now. You need to read the last chapter. And she reads the last chapter. And the letter written to the teacher, and thus Dudu's real feelings written to Honoka, as it were, are, if it becomes too painful to remember me, let me go.
She's willing to be forgotten by Maki.
Mm-hmm. And it is this message that essentially saves Honoka from herself.
Mm-hmm.
And they eventually go to the beach where everybody is having a piss poor fireworks party because of the rain. And Honoka shows up there with Yuta, and everybody's like, wait, she's here, but she still doesn't look happy, and what will it take for us to be friends? And Honoka just points at the sea, says, go jump in the sea. And the first person to do it is Yuta. And he runs like a girl. And I do mean that. He runs like a girl. And he jumps into the sea. And a few others follow him. And Honoka finally laughs about it. And what she says is very poignant. We aren't friends. We're closer than that because of being Kiznaivers.
Although I will still laugh at the fact that I will always laugh whenever you have a moment where somebody says something ridiculous and their bluff gets called. Like, go swim in the river. Okay.
It's always funny.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost to my favorite episode. I'm so happy.
Yep. But then we get to
Calm
number
down.
8. Happy times don't tend to last very long, which we go with these long names and then we get shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Happy na jikante soso nagaku wa tsuzukanai mono da yo ne.
So the Japanese version is still long-ass names.
Hey, no, it's about the same length.
But
it's here that we start to see some really, really concerning things happen.
Some intense shit.
yeah.
Shit starts to hit the fan very fucking hard.
But for starters, there's the issue of them being kidnapped by Gomarine and taken to the school right in the middle of a typhoon.
Well, but that's after they've all met up to hang out. Remember, they're at the mall getting their pictures and having ice cream and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Things friends do. They're actually acting like friends, even though a typhoon is on the way.
Yep.
And it should be important to note that we have been getting little flashes to Yamada, Urushibara, and Noriko talking about the Kizuna system and how far these Kiznaivers have gotten. And one of the scenes we've gotten with Yamada talking to them is, with the typhoon coming in and the low pressure system hitting, the parasympathetic nervous system will take over and emotions will run high. And maybe we'll finally see the final step of the Kizuna system.
And he seems to be a little bit excited about the prospect of seeing the final step.
It is here that we get, through these small scenes, we get a feeling for the differences between Yamada and Urushibara.
Mm-hmm.
Yamada is almost a cult member to Noriko. He will do anything for her to achieve her goal, no matter how debased or craven. Whereas Urushibara is concerned with Noriko herself as a person and doesn't want to see the girl break into nothing.
Mm-hmm. And because, which is where the mission comes in of get home safely.
Yep. Get home safely from the typhoon.
But the whole thing is part of Yamada's plan to accelerate the system through romantic connections, resulting in him doing a lot of shipping games.
He forces Yankee biker Gomorin.
Yankee Gomorin.
Yep. To separate the kids in the school based on the romances he sees between them. He separates Yuta and Honoka because it's very clear something is building between them. And then he separates into a larger group, Katsuhira, Chidori, Tenga, and Nico, because he notices there's a love triangle between Tenga, Chidori, and Katsuhira, and a love triangle between Tenga, Chidori, and Nico.
Wait. So that would make it a love hexagon then?
No, it's two separate love triangles connected at the same vertex.
Right.
It's like,
no, gentlemen. I think the true technical term is love clusterfuck.
That also too.
Yeah,
And of course, Hisomu is just Hisomu.
Yes.
We love our boy Hisomu. He loves himself too. Maybe a little too much.
Yes.
A little.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But after separating those four into a bigger group, he then separates them into two smaller groups of Katsuhira and Chidori and Nico and Tenga. And of course, we have our general hijinks of being chased around by weird Gomorin that are easy to beat up. And eventually we get to a point where, while they're running around, we're seeing Noriko, Urushibara, and Yamada discuss all this stuff. And after he's pointing out the shipping games, he's like, there is one more connection to Katsuhira. And Noriko's like, oh, I see, it's me. Well then, I better go help. And she goes to help, to push the buttons further. She goes into a weird underground subway we've never seen before that stops, and she starts coming up a tunnel while Katsuhira and Chidori are talking, and Chidori is about to confess that she loves Katsuhira even now. But as she's starting to confess, her words fade out. We get a huge upswelling of the OST, and Katsuhira starts having visions of children in smocks running around. Two children look remarkably familiar to some of the characters we've seen. And they lead him outside, and he feels like Noriko's out there. So he rushes out the doors, and as Noriko comes up a stairway, a hidden hatch opens up on the school grounds near the founder statue, and Katsuhira is running there because now the typhoon is about to blow the statue down on her, and he saves her.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the end of episode
By the way,
8.
if I may also point out Urushibara's, or Urushi, as she goes by as well, yes, her last name is turned into a nickname.
As is Yamada.
Thanks to Yamada.
Mm-mm.
Her
is Yamada.
as is Yamada. My mistake. But her seiyuu is Mie Sonozaki.
What did I say about not trusting a Sonozaki?
And much like how Yuki Kaji also voices a character in Hiroaka, she is also known for one of the most plot important characters in Hiroaka, the the mentor to Toshinori All Might Yagi, Nana Shimura.
Yep. So, again, we got a pretty good cast here, even if it doesn't seem like it is.
Oh yeah.
It's really good.
Oh yeah.
But the next episode, Monk.
Strap yourselves in, folks. This is
Yep.
the big one.
My favorite episode, episode 9, and not just because it's the number 9.
Or as our resident perv of the anime would be, strap in or strap on.
I'll give you that one.
I gotta get a joke in. I'm letting you guys talk tonight.
That's fine, Maddie. I understand.
This one is simply titled "It's All Over," I think.
Banjikyus Kashira. And we start with Tenga and Nico coming up on Chidori asking where Katsuhira is, and she's like, he rushed out into the storm to Sonozaki-chan. And the rest of the Kiznaivers come together and eventually get back to the same schoolroom they were in, where Yamada first confronted them. And a projector turns. Yes. And a projector turns on showing Katsuhira and Noriko in the gymnasium, talking to each other, where Katsuhira says he thinks he's known Noriko for a lot longer than it seems, and that they were once together as children. And Noriko confirms all this, telling stories about the earlier Kiznaiver experiment with children of the researchers that included him and her. And there's this moment where he sees into the connections he has from that original experiment, because they're all still connected. And he sees the children, he sees the life he had, he knows the friends he had. He starts crying, at least a little bit. And he said, I found myself in you, and I found you in me. And everybody who's watching in the AV room is like, whoa, what the hell? Except for Chidori, who's like, I just can't win. I thought I knew him longer.
She feels like she's being cheated on, essentially.
No, she feels like there's no way that she can overcome the connection that he has with Noriko.
Yes.
Which ends up creating a chain reaction. This ends up creating a chain reaction because of the feelings that Tenga has, which reacts to the feelings that Nico has, and the whole.
We're not there yet.
My apologies.
We're not there yet. So they're watching Noriko and Katsuhira on the screen, and they're all like, we gotta go stop them. And all the Kiznaivers start going towards the gym except for Chidori. Now, you could see that Tenga has feelings for Chidori at this point, and you could see that Nico has feelings for Tenga. It's implied, as you would normally see amongst people seeing each other's body language. And as they're all leaving, Nico is the last one to leave the room, and she castigates Chidori. I'm going to face my pain. Why are you too cowardly to go face yours? And eventually, they all get to the gym just in time to see Katsuhira embracing Noriko, which causes a massive amount of heart pain for Chidori, which then spreads to everybody else. And Chidori runs off. And Tenga runs up to Katsuhira and goes, go after her, man! What are you doing? And so he runs off. And then Noriko starts pointing out how Tenga has feelings for Chidori, so why would you help her and Katsuhira? And then points out that Nico has feelings for Tenga, which causes Nico to become super embarrassed and run away into the gymnasium storage room underneath one of the vaulting horses, and causes everybody else to run in different directions. But Yuta goes, didn't you just tell Katsuhira to run after the girl? Go after her! So Tenga at first starts going after Nico, but then we get to the best OST and the best scene, in my opinion, in the entire show. For all of those who want to listen to the song, it is called PB_R. And the scene starts with Katsuhira catching up to Chidori outside and grabbing her wrist and telling her, wait, hold up, why are you running away? Come on, talk about this with me. And she's like, let me go, let me go. And then there's another voice that almost sounds like it's going through a slight muffled microphone filter. It's Chidori's voice. And she says, hold me like you held her. Katsuhira hears it. Katsuhira does it. And the immediate shock of pain, along with the same voice going, why are you so cruel? Sparks everything. Next, Tenga is rushing out of the building. He didn't bother looking for Nico anymore because they all felt this. And he knocks Katsuhira to the ground and starts laying into him, punching him left and right. And you hear Tenga's voice through that same filter. Why is it him? Why can't it be me? Why don't you love me? Why do you love him? And
Zan, if I may make a riff.
Hmm.
No! It should have been me, not him! Why?
Okay.
For those unaware, I am invoking the scene where Atem laments Yugi having his soul taken by the Orichalcos when Atem was under the seal's influence.
Flutter? Actually, you know what? Shades, do you have the Joker button?
Ah, yes. Oh, Jesus
That is
Christ.
entirely unintended, but it is deserved.
Where is that button? I know it's over here somewhere. There it is. Here's the button.
If you have to explain a joke, there is no joke!
Yeah.
Intended or not, rules are rules.
Yes, they are, and they must be followed.
But we don't
Well,
run
yeah.
until the sun comes up. So,
But
but then, as his voice is laying into everybody as he lays into Katsuhira, Nico comes out and talks. First you hear her saying, why are we fighting? But then you hear the same under voice with the same filter. If you don't want him, give him to me. Give Tenga to me. And finally, everybody else is out there hearing these things, feeling the hurt. Not only the physical pain of Tenga laying into Katsuhira, but the deep-seated emotional pain that everybody is rebounding on. And then finally, Honoka comes out and says, we really couldn't be friends. She says it vocally, and then the same voice, that same muffled, almost radio microphone voice, we really can't be friends. And the pain hits everybody. They fall to the ground. Everybody falls to the ground. And all you hear, all you see, red to Kiznaiver scars. It's gone from blue to yellow to red. And the words, it hurts.
Itai.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, you end up seeing kind of the what could be considered the end stage of the program. Not sharing both physical pain, emotional pain, and each other's inner thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
Katsuhira does stand back up for a second to look at everybody as he's hearing the words, it hurts. He's like, is this your pain? I'm sorry, I can't feel any of it. He's feeling so terrible. Who's hurting? He asks. And Hisomu, once again, our good boy Hisomu, smarter than he seems. I don't think this is any one person's pain. This isn't just one person.
Mm-hmm.
Before he also collapses in pain. And they pass the night, the rain falling upon them. And then the sun comes up, everybody on the ground, curled up. And Urushibara and Yamada show up, and Yamada goes, You guys look the worst for wear. And they talk about how, well, at the end of the summer, the Kizna system will be released. Good job, guys. You passed all your missions.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us to episode 10. You knew very well that your romantic feelings might be unrequited, right?
Ina kimochi ga unrequited. Yeah.
Yeah, unrequited. I was going to say.
Yeah. It's okay. Monk doesn't normally make mistakes, but sometimes. Suki na kimochi ga mukuwarenai kamo nante juju shochi no ue daro.
Yep. And at first everyone decides to not keep in touch with each other until the next school year begins. Because of what happened during the typhoon and not wanting to repeat that.
The next school years begin in March.
Mm-hmm. Next school term, sorry.
Yeah. But they all separate, and you get this eerie vista of them walking away and text messages. Mm-hmm. And you get like little questions of, "You didn't hear that, right? My voice isn't going out." "Nah, I didn't hear that. It's just in your head." So it only seems like these happen if we get really emotionally charged. Then that's it. It's decided. For the rest of the summer vacation, don't do anything weird.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing to note is that the Kizna scars that they've all had don't seem to be showing up as much.
They go away by the beginning of the next term.
Mm-hmm. But except for after Noriko tries to appear to jump, but in reality she just fainted. But Katsuhira's Kiznaiver scar does react.
Yeah, there's a point where the mayor of Sugomori, one of the members of the Kizuna Council or committee, however you want to call them, tells her that because they've lost a lot of their funding and that there's going to be an inspection from the government soon, they need to get rid of many of the labs because of the fact that they show what is essentially pretty fucking heinous human experimentation. Mm-hmm. On children, no less. And she's like, "But we got to the final stage. We can do this. I can do this." And she goes like she's going to jump, like she did when she was a child. But she doesn't. Nope. Because she faints.
Mm-hmm. Although, really good props on the camera work for a good fake out.
Yep.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
The way it's shot, it looks like she fell.
Yeah.
Which she did. She just didn't fall off.
Yeah. The big thing here is that as she gets emotionally worked up, and yes, it seems weird to say Noriko gets emotionally worked up. She's been a near automaton this entire time. It does react with Katsuhira. He does feel it for a moment. And it is at the same time that he's been going around the school looking for everybody with Hisomu by his side, because Hisomu's the only one hanging out with him still. Hisomu's a true bro. Again, we stand Hisomu in this house.
Mm-hmm. He is the Bro-Niver.
Boo.
Dave him, please. That was Dave worthy.
John, I second.
I assumed the position.
Dave!
No, if we're going to Dave him for that one, I think we need to go one step further. I'm going to break out this whole chestnut. Dave!
Oh!
Yeah.
I definitely deserve that.
That was nah. That was just nah.
How's bad? You should feel bad.
Exactly.
That I do.
But we get shots of them going around the school looking for other Kiznaivers, and Nico peering at them from around a corner. And then Nico's like, "I still want to be friends." And why can't we be friends? I mean,
Why can't we be friends?
this is true. Because then Katsuhira just goes, sure, why not? And Nico's like, it was that easy? She was, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
But they're all having friends, and then the reaction on his Kiznaiver scar pops up. But as some in-between things, we get scenes of other Kiznaivers interacting or lacking thereof. Like Yuta no longer being really interested in his posse of girl groupies. Honoka being, well, the aloof, cold bitch she was prior to everything happening. But an interesting interaction is Chidori and Tenga on the rooftop, where Tenga's just like, could you just reject me, please?
Friend zone me. I
Please
beg
just
of you.
Please just reject me. You'll feel better. He's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for her. He's like, just reject me. You'll feel better. She's like, but those aren't my feelings. I can't understand that.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing yet again. 4D foreshadowing, in fact.
Yep.
Have we made it clear that the storytelling in this anime is fucking masterful?
I think we've made that clear so far. But moving a bit forward, there's one bombshell that we do need to bring up, and that is the reason that part of the reason there is the bond between Katsuhira and Noriko. This is not their first rodeo with the. Go ahead.
Well, that was covered in episode 9.
But this is where the cover completely comes off.
Yes, and that's when Katsuhira
is lifted.
Yeah, that's when Katsuhira, Hisomu, and Nico sneak onto the subway system into the secret lab.
Mm-hmm.
And Urushibara catches them, but not the mayor when he's leaving. And Urushibara gives them the story.
Yeah, the first 12 years ago, there was an experiment with the Kiznaiver system.
Now, for context, Nico is 17 years old. This means 12 years ago puts it at 4- and 5-year-old children.
Yes.
The idea with using children was to let the effects of the Kiznaiver system set in before they had developed their egos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because it didn't work very well with adults who already had fully developed egos.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
However, Noriko ended up receiving all of the pain from all of the other test subjects, even down to tiny things like sitting on chairs or walking across or walking or running along floors barefoot.
Yes, things that mundane
were then magnified 19 times because it was 19 kids.
Yes.
And the reason this happened is that early on, she first absorbed 5 other kids' pain, and they tried to stop the experiment, and they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening was the way that the Kizna system was described is it sends a seed of your pain into the other person, so that when you experience pain, that's echoed out to that seed of you within them, but you still retain your own pain. What Noriko basically did is she took all the seeds and just kept them. He did never send them back because she was afraid of being alone. She didn't want anyone to leave her.
She was that attached.
That terrified.
Yes.
And the problem with that is she would end up experiencing ungodly amounts of pain unless she was taking specific medicine to dull her senses, which is why she's kind of an ice queen. It doesn't excuse her being a see you next Tuesday, but now we have an explanation.
There is a justifiable explanation, yes.
No, and then I still argue that it is an excuse because she never chose that and that it's all caused by unconscious trauma, and it's really all the adults' faults.
Yeah.
Maddie doesn't agree, but that's okay.
The way it was portrayed to me, it's like, yeah, it comes off not just as a nice queen, but as a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. But that whole sensory numbing had its own ripple effect, where you see some of the other children who were involved in the experiment, and they're full-on catatonic.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all vegetables.
Not all, but a good number of them.
Yes,
five of them are. 5 of them are. And it's the 5 friends that Katsuhira remembers most from when he was a child among them. And he asks to go see them. And when he sees them, he remembers who they are and remembers the things that were most poignant about them as children. Like how one of them taught him to use which leaf to whistle and make bird call. Yeah. And at the end of it all, Katsuhira chokes up. And you get the long, restrained cry of agony from a 5-year-old. From a 5-year-old Katsuhira in 17-year-old Katsuhira's body. The way that they had him actually express that cry was Yuki Kaji did it perfect. He it's this choking, mewling. It's not even, someone who's crying in pain as an adult. You can tell this is Katsuhira's childhood self crying. Because Katsuhira's childhood was stunted back at 5, when he lost all his pain and thus most of his ability to emote. And because these were the last 3 episodes, we did watch them one by one. This cry is the end of episode 10, and also at the beginning of episode 11, and I forced these fuckers to watch it twice.
God, I wasn't there for that.
Screams of pain so nice they watched it twice.
Glad I missed that one.
Yep.
I hate you, Sam. I fucking hate you.
Get in line.
It's a pretty long line. You have a long wait.
Why is one of them Yuna from Final Fantasy X too? No, it's Sequitur, but it's one of those questions I have to ask.
I'm saying get to the back of the line. Pretend you're waiting at Disneyland.
Or Power Morphcon 2018.
Or actually, let me make this even worse for you, Flutter. Pretend you're waiting outside in the rain at Crunchyroll Expo.
Motherfucker!
I am evil Mildra. I am evil Mildra.
Tautology. We just have to call it Mildra.
Fair. I have traumatized all my coworkers.
But you have
multiple times.
Yeah, including pulling the greatest stunt ever. Nothing. That was my April Fool's joke for this year. Doing nothing.
Wow.
But with that, we get to episode 11, Monk.
Yep. We have to contact each other and confirm our feelings because we're friends.
いちいち連絡し合って気持ちを確認し合わないと。だって友達なんだから。
And first off, we have Noriko explaining to Yamada that the reason she tried to jump was she was looking for something she saw 12 years ago. And one of the key things within this episode is a lot of the crew trying to reconnect, even though they can't use the Kizna system anymore.
Yeah.
And this also results in one of my favorite scenes of Katsuhira giving an apology with just. I mean, the line is open, but Chidori's not saying anything, and it's just one long monologue from Katsuhira.
It wasn't that the line was open. He left a message.
Yeah, he left a message. I don't know what I was thinking. Even though Chidori was still in the other apartment, but one of the things that ends up really starting to escalate is aside from the Kiznaivers really reuniting to assess how valid their friendship has been, and the fact that they're bonded even though they're no longer connected through the system, then Noriko shows up right in the middle of the city, offering to bond with everyone. Because that's escalated quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, that was the very end of that episode too.
Mm-hmm.
She is basically going to every one of the Kiznaivers. Play with me.
Not just the Kiznaivers, everyone in the goddamn city.
Yep.
Every all the denizens of the city. Play with me forever and ever and ever.
But the regarding the two scenes that Monk briefly covered, the first scene, the apology to Chidori, he talks about how he didn't really care about his pain, and he didn't really care about being saved, and he didn't realize that was actually hurting her, and that he was sorry that had hurt her. And after she listens to the message, she goes, "You idiot! Don't you know if you tell me an apology like that, it's essentially the same as rejecting me?" And then she flashes back to Tenga. "Could you just reject me, please?"
She got her wish!
Like, she didn't understand those thoughts because they weren't her feelings, but now they are.
What you wish for, Chidori, because you just might fucking get it.
Mm-hmm. But the second scene, the scene where he's confirming things about why they're all friends and talking to the rest of the Kiznaivers, he's talking so much and thinking so much, he starts to run down. And he also starts to feel an immense amount of emotional pain. And as he's doing this, they're all watching him, and Nico goes, "I've got that moya moya feeling again." And all of them feel bad. And then he faints because of how much of his mental power he had to use for all of that. Because he was just thinking and thinking, because he can't really feel. He's essentially running. He's essentially emotionally breaking down due to how analytical he's being. It's more that his mind is breaking down because he's just trying to run at 1,000,000 miles a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
whoever thinks everything, I know that feeling all too well.
I think that's the majority of us, Shades, but okay.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just speaking for myself on this one.
True. And after he faints, they take him down to the nurse's office where Urushibara is, and they go, we all felt his pain. We're still connected by the Kizuna. You lied to us. She's like, no, the Kizuna were released at the end of the summer because they had to be. They can't hold you any longer than that. The exception being, Katsuhira with Noriko because of the weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, what you're doing is called being human and feeling each other's emotions because you actually care about each other. Thank you. And she even bows to them and says, "Thank you for caring for him."
Like a mother would to the friends of her children.
Even though Katsuhira's real parents are still off on some sort of business trip, which is why he's home.
What I mean.
Which is why he's home alone. But yes, essentially they realize that you may have gotten rid of the Kizuna system, but you didn't get rid of your Kizuna. And yes, that pun is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
They realize that empathy is a thing that is built between people, even if it's forced.
Yeah.
But with Sonozaki announcing to the entire city using some sort of citywide PA. I don't know where that came from.
Attention, citizens!
Fucking Christ.
This is the Neighborhood Watch Committee reminding you that necrophilia is still illegal. Thank you and have a pleasant day.
But with that announcement from her, we get to episode 12, Monk.
If the Kizna system spread throughout the world.
世界中に絆システムが広がって。
And the thing, and this is where we have the full extent of what the plan is. In her mind, to utilize the Kizna system to save what could be referred to as the 5 dolls, or the 5 survivors of the original experiment. And the approach to do that is put the Kizna system on just about everyone, at least everyone within the city.
But if you've been paying attention to how things have gone so far, you start to realize the flaw in this plan.
Yes! The glaring flaw!
This is a plan that can only come about when due to the absolute belief that the Kizna system is this universal savior.
Spoiler alert, it's not.
It fucking isn't.
But especially considering that, well, as we've seen plenty of times, as much as some might want to claim otherwise, the Kizna system cannot sustain can't sustain that level of connection, and 2, it's not a one-way street.
No.
Even with
there is a right and a left.
Even with the amount last time, it inadvertently caused those kids to go catatonic.
Yeah.
Now imagine amplifying that by hundreds, and you start to realize how bad this could be. One person sprains their foot, everyone suddenly feels like their foot just broke.
Yeah.
And in turn, locks the fucking city down.
Yeah, she does do that. Now, we do have to address one thing we didn't quite detail from the earlier story about Noriko. Because she started holding on to their pain, it started breaking down her psyche, which is why she's on those tons of drugs. Anyone connecting to her sends pain, but never receives it back.
Yeah.
And so, the more people she adds on, the less effective those drugs are going to be.
Uh-huh.
And then when all that builds up, it's like a bomb about to blow.
She'd probably die.
No, not a bomb, Shades. A fucking nuke.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. And when that inevitable breaking point hits, all that pain, all of that emotion, all of that suffering is just gonna flood out.
Yeah.
It'll ricochet back to everyone en masse, but it'll likely kill Noriko in the process too.
And well, the only person who is willing to go along with this is Yamada, because Yamada is the worst kind of case, a true believer, for lack of a better term.
It's not only that, Monk. Remember that when he's in the elevator with Urushibata, he says, "We were young researchers and they were children, and we didn't know the type of sins we put upon them. So now I'll do anything to make her dream come true, to make up for my sins."
To atone for them, essentially.
He's not looking for redemption. He's just looking to do what he can to help her.
Yes.
Not realizing that that it would end up dooming her instead.
Yeah. And In the climax, you have her at the top of the bridge, which good thing we brought in that particular that particular Chekhov's gun on the table.
Oh yeah, thank God that thank fuck that it fired.
The weird X-shaped bridge, yeah.
Which the way it ends up being set up, you have a shot into it where it ends up somewhat mirroring the Kiznaiver scar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which this is Trigger. Trigger loves doing visual storytelling, so
sight gags.
It's not even a gag though.
No.
Symbolism more so.
That's probably more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the film brain thing.
No.
No. It doesn't deserve it.
But it ultimately takes it ultimately takes Katsuhira to finally at least attempt to get through to her, because by this point Noriko thinks that the Kizna system is the only salvation for everybody in order to connect with each other.
When she's completely wrong.
Whereas Katsuhira, in a full circle kind of thing, because as this has been going on, he has been opening up more and more. Says that it's okay if we don't fully understand each other because we can at least try to.
And that's part of being friends and being human. And he even talks about how even after the Kizna have left those Kiznaivers, they're connected. And she's like, yeah, because you connected to the Kizna system, so now you're friends. He's like, even if we hadn't had the Kizna system, if we'd ever been put together in a way that would allow us to communicate, we still would have been friends, was his point.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't get it. And he's like, it's okay. You can let go of all their pain. We'll all laugh and be together again. You just have to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Both of them do end up surviving, although I think there was a bit of a dip.
Well, first she blows up one part of the drawbridge in a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Then she goes to almost jump off the bridge to get away from him. And he instead spears her off the bridge. Mm-hmm. So she can't blow up more stuff.
Gore! Gore!
Really? All right, Flutter, hand over your card.
Here you go.
Thank you, Shades.
Here you go, Shades. You can have it.
Ooh,
but
sassy.
as they're both falling through the air towards the river or the bay, they both scream, "It hurts! It died!
It died!"
And when they hit the water, first Noriko is sinking without swimming, and Katsuhira tries to swim down to her to pull her up. And then when we get to the casement at the bottom of the bridge supports, it's Katsuhira had to be fished from the water in the end by her.
Yep.
But they ask him how he feels. He says, it stings, and it hurts, and there's pressure, and it's great, because he can finally feel again.
Yes.
But it's shortly after that we have a bit of a epilogue regarding everybody. You have Yuta and Honoka sharing ice cream together. So
it's actually a crepe.
Huh? It is a crepe. I don't know why some people thought it was an ice cream cone. Apparently Honoka wants Yuta to put on some weights, which because Go ahead.
And the exact reason was so flies don't come buzzing around you. She's claimed him.
Yeah.
And he blushes bright red too.
We're talking tomato. But because it's Honoka, it's hard to tell when she's being serious and when she's fucking with people. Gee, why does that sound familiar?
Crazy.
Yeah,
when she's fucking with people.
You have Chidori and Tenga action starting dating. Nico following them because under the guise of not being able to make it, but still tailing them.
Yeah. What happens is Hisomu, Nico, Tenga, and Chidori are supposed to meet at the mall to hang out. Mm-hmm. But Nico and Hisomu are Nico sends a text that, sorry, Hisomu and I can't make it right now. You two go on without us. And are actually
under the guise of visiting the former Kiznaiver.
No.
Wait, my mistake.
No. That was the mail chain subject because they're all talking about going to meet them later.
Yeah.
Right.
But she says she's not able to make it, and neither is Hisomu, but they're actually watching from an upper walkway. And Nico being Nico, she talks about how she isn't giving up and how her and Chidori need to have a fist fight on the beach. And she even turns her twin tails into a fucking pompadour. And then after they fight, they'll be the best of friends and the winner will take Tenga. And Hisomu's like, you sure do have an imagination.
And coming from him, that's saying something.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I think the most normal person might actually be Hisomu. That's saying something. Maybe Yuta's a little more normal. Maybe.
Yeah. But as for Katsuhira and Noriko, they are hospital buddies.
Yep, they're next to each other in the hospital, talking to each other, and as the rest of the Kiznaivers show up, Chidori's like, "How improper!" because they're holding hands. Mm-hmm. Remember,
how lewd!
Consensual handholding, the lewdest.
So much joke shit.
Gotta be quicker than that.
Consensual handholding, it's the lewdest.
Yes.
And she talks about how she's accepted them, being together, but they should have some decorum. And then Noriko gives her a deadpan shot to the gut. She's like, "Never mind, I don't approve of you." And it's just this long-standing thing. Everybody meshing together, talking, having fun, laughing, and the ending scene is them talking about how next time they go to the mall, because who found it in the lost and found bucket? Was it?
I think it was Honoka?
Yeah, it was Honoka who found the pictures in the lost and found bucket. That's true. Mm-hmm. And Nico turns to Noriko and says, "Next time you should come along and we do this too." After she's showing her the pictures and like, "Your eyes are so much larger here." Clearly, your dog is connected to the Kizuna system. But she's given the offer to go along with them next time, and we finally get a smile, and that is the ending scene.
Yep.
Perfect full circle moment right there. Mwah!
Yeah.
C'est magnifique.
So.
C'est magnifique.
No, he's got it. He's got it. It's good.
Yep. So with that said, I think it's time that we enter into our final judgments.
Indeed. I think we've been at this for quite some time. We know our rules. So, for his triumphant return, Brother Shades, give me your verdict.
Oh, I have a little bit to say here, because obviously I've let you guys do most of the talking tonight. Honestly, a lot of this series run personal for me, because holding in pain and wanting to connect to others is something I definitely feel very strongly about. I've never been very good at connecting with others like that. And my childhood was filled with me trying to hold in pain and realizing you don't do that because it will come back to bite you. So a lot of the series resonated with me on a personal level. And with the animation, the storytelling, the music, as we have been raving about since the beginning of this episode, and everything else is just perfect. When when I first reviewed this series a year or so ago on Anime Takeover, I gave this a 4-star platinum rating. Pretty high rating, not the top, but I definitely think that holds up. I think this probably could have done with a few extra episodes to stretch it out just a little bit longer. Not by much. I'd say 15 would have probably done the job. Just especially near the end to really kind of flesh things out. But I think, and to give some of the characters a little more development room. But you didn't need much. You did not need much. It would have been too much if you got any further than that. Yeah. But aside from that, everything about this series was solid. It told a great story and a very unique style for Trigger, who are normally known for the over-the-top, in-your-face explosion fest that they've been known to do. Yes, so I think my original rating still stands. So thus, I declare Kiznaiver to be weeb.
And thus, Brother Shades has announced that Kiznaiver is weeb. With that, we move on to Brother Flutter. What do you got for me here?
So, for those that may be aware with Trigger's previous works, such as Luluco, Death Cop, Kill la Kill, and the like, you may be used to them like delving into various in-your-face laugh fests and like explosions and like dumb popcorn flick style animes, but this is a very welcome and refreshing change of pace. It's very grounded. It has a very teachable message and a very resonant message that can reach out to anyone. Any of the characters can be relatable, depending on who is watching this and who you are watching this with. Dependent on the experiences you've had in your life or in the lives of others that you are connected to. And the musical identity is perfect, but I behoove of you to buy the OST if you can, because it is deserved to be listened to physically. And those of you in the audience right now who have not seen this, rectify that expeditiously. You need to see this anime at least once before you die. And with that, my verdict is as thus: weeb!
And thus, Brother Flutter has given us another vote of weeb! Brother Matty, what do you got for me?
Well, sir, this is the part where I actually get to talk for half an hour now. No. The overlying theme, obviously, with emotion and all that stuff, something that I think is subtle, I don't know if it was brought up or not, was the theme of the word grief. Because, of course, pain is part of that. Obviously, you get that. But a lot of the main characters were grieving something, or blocking something, or blocking some kind of trauma. And they didn't want to grieve. I think I could kind of agree with what the Shade said when it comes, they could have used that a couple more episodes to really flesh a lot of it out. It's one of those situations where, yeah, you could have used a few more, but as is, just fine. This was fun, and this is definitely a Studio Trigger joint, but not one that you would expect. The subject matter was handled as well as you can. The fact that this flew under the radar is slightly criminal, and I only say slightly because, then again, look at the competition. That being said, this was fun. This was a good show. Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say you need to watch it, but if you can watch it, if you have the opportunity to watch it,
take it.
Do it. Absolutely do it. This is a Weeb Plus.
Oh, Weeb+. That's a first.
All right, and thus Brother Matty has given us a Weeb Plus, even though that's not part of the rating
system. It's not possible. You could call it Weeb. Yeah,
It's not part of it, Weeb. But we'll count it anyway because this is a Trigger work. So, Monk, what do you got for us?
So, first off, let me get something out of the way. If he weren't so swamped already, I would reach out to Chuck Sonnenberg and say, I think you need to cover this. This is right in your wheelhouse.
Oh.
And for those saying that he wouldn't cover weird ass anime, if he can cover Madoka Magica, I don't see why this is off the table.
Yeah, that's pretty much that pretty much fills that gap question.
Granted, I thought it was a stretch to have him cover Gurren Lagann, but he never finished that one, probably for the reasons likely because he came to the same conclusion I did. There wasn't going to be a whole lot to say. At least early on, when it comes to his style, because let's not forget his whole thing is digressions into SF and sometimes weirder things, like say the times where Sam and Max pretends to be a normal cartoon.
Yeah.
Pretends, but I know it'd be. It'd be very easy to say, sorry, that this is a bit of left field for Trigger, but in a roundabout way, it isn't. Cast your mind back to when we did what was possibly the most cursed episode of Geek Watch, where we talked about Gynax.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah.
And one of the codas that we left off on is that Trigger has become Gynax's successor. Gynax was founded by a bunch of college kids who loved animation and loved the storytelling that you can do with animation. This Kiznaiver very much carries that. Does it have the same level of bombast as Trigger's previous works? No, but that same love for animation and storytelling is still there.
The passion is still.
If you look at Gynax's filmography, it's not like they were always all bombast all the time. I'd be very hesitant to say that something like, say, Nadia was bombastic.
No, as would I.
I'd say it's a case of never interrupt your enemy, but that's another story.
Yes.
One that we've already covered.
Uh-huh.
The point is that at the end of the day, Kiznaiver is a story of high concept science fiction story. One that shows the positives and negatives of a technology being explored. If you've been around science fiction long enough, you have seen this particular archetype. Maybe not this particular story archetype, but the concept of, well, high concept. In a lot of science fiction, there's usually one bit of tech that is at the crux of whatever new society you end up having. I know it would be tempting to say the mass relays in Mass Effect are an example of this, but no, instead it's Element 0 in Mass Effect. But that being said, the big reason that I made the comparison between this and The Breakfast Club, and if I want to really be pandering, the last Power Rangers movie, which I also made Breakfast Club jokes about.
Yes, 2017 for those unaware.
But in each of them, you have a cast of characters who could be considered representatives of a stereotype, in whether it be the stereotypes of an American high school, the stereotypes of a more modern of a small town society, or in this case the 7 deadly sins, both that and the Japanese sins. Although if I wanted to be really pedantic, I could say there's not 7 deadly sins, there's 108.
Eh.
You didn't think I'd pull out a Buddhism joke, did you?
Oh, I did.
It's you. I expect nothing less.
Same here.
Just as you expect me, Monk, I expect you.
But the point is that at the end of all of them, you have people developing an understanding between each other. It's just this one is a little bit more forced than some of the others. And certainly more direct. You kind of had the whole needing to understand each other with 2017 Power Rangers, but it was kind of obtuse, and there was that subplot about Zordon wanting to get out of his little cage. And this is the reason why the Breakfast Club is the perfect analogy, because the impetus to bring everybody together is, well, detention.
And it's a bunch of different people that, well,
yeah,
normally wouldn't be in detention together.
Normally wouldn't be in detention together and wouldn't even be seen in the same room with each other.
Or in the same social circle.
Mm-hmm. Especially Hisomu, because, well, he never shows up. I think he is the best winner of the Doku challenge.
Yes.
But
much
make Doku jealous.
But I'm not going to jump up and down and say this is something that needs to be seen before one dies. But for anyone who enjoys high concept explorations of character, this is a must watch. And for that reason, I award Kiznaiver Weeb.
And thus the monk has given us a vote of Weeb. And now we come down to me. Kiznaiver aired at a time where I was reevaluating my life. I had had some pretty bad downs and was trying to pull myself back out of the pits I had found myself in. So the particular message Kiznaiver had resonated very deeply for me in 2016. I found it absolutely criminal that it was overshadowed by its contemporaries. Though timing being what it was, I felt that that was more an issue of management than of actual comparison. But each of the characters, the massive set pieces that we got, the chamber plays, the in-depth dives to people's psyches, all of it built upon itself. It created this long-standing pyramid of emotional catharsis for me. The music, well, those were the drums helping me build. Ostensibly speaking. This show has been one of my favorites since it came out. This is the 4th time I've watched it.
Whew!
And I am very glad I got to share it with good friends because of how dear it is to me.
And we can't thank you enough for doing so.
What you should really be thanking is the wheel, because that's
That too.
I did thank the wheel, if you'll remember last episode, Monk. I said, you rolled it, you said it, now, and I fucking screamed out loud. Remember?
He burst with adulation.
Exactly. The type of story this tells, I feel, is a story that can resonate with anyone. And that's not me playing on the joke about Kiznaiver's connecting with everybody. I legitimately feel Trigger built a story that, regardless of whether you understand Japanese society or not, or any of the jokes, the actual heart of the story, that of emotion, connection, bonding, and empathy, will resonate with anyone worldwide should they give it a chance.
Uh-huh.
And the music, of course, as we've been pointing out, only helps to elevate the message. They masterfully ramp it up in the scenes where they need it, bring it back to atmosphere levels in the scenes where they need an accent. But that identity is always there. You're always hearing something that suits the situation.
that musically fits the theme of the situation as well.
Indeed. I insist on watching in Japanese with a lot of shows simply because I like the extent of understanding within that particular medium. English dubs for this are actually pretty good. I thought that they did really well because I have watched it in both. I still prefer the Japanese dub simply for some of my favorite scenes and how they play out in Japanese. And
much to the credit of the Seiyu.
Mm-hmm. And with all of these things, the artwork, the cinematography, the sakuga, the music, the story, the themes, the connections, the voices, there is nothing more I can do besides give Kiznaiver a rating of weeb. And with 5 votes of weeb and none of scrub,
a unanimous decision at that,
the Parliament of Geeks finds Kiznaiver to be weeb!
Fuck yeah!
And I'm pretty sure if somebody hasn't written it already, I'm pretty sure eventually you're going to see a book titled 100 Anime You Must See Before You Die, and it would be criminal if this is not on that list.
Yes.
We've seen it with wrestling things, we've seen it with sport events, we've seen it with musicians. It's only a matter of time that somebody's going to write that book regarding anime if somebody hasn't already beaten me to the punch. That said, I'm not writing that book. I might write it about tabletop, but there is no way I'm going to be able to nail it down to 100 without making some really painful cuts.
Monk, funnily enough, there may not be books, but there are lists, and there are videos of said lists.
That doesn't count.
Fair enough.
I need it in a book, or it doesn't count. Now
you need it in print.
Mm-hmm. Now, normally in this situation, I would spin the wheel to determine what we're going to be covering next. Grab a cushion because here's where the butt comes in. Instead, I have already earmarked what's going to be coming next because since it has been out for a few weeks at the very least, and we've covered it before, at least in the past.
Shut up, Flutter.
The next episode of the Parliament of Geeks will be Season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina.
Yeah. Grab your D20s, folks. We're back at it again.
Grab your D20s and join us at the table.
Okay. Hold on, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That very much deserve it.
But
again.
more importantly, I hope they've got a better opening theme.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I know I got some shit for that, but I maintain what I said. I don't care if that was an instrumental cover of Your Turn to Roll. At the very least, just swap it out with Thursday Night. Nobody's gonna bat an eye.
No.
Honestly, yeah, probably not.
Yeah. But that is going to do it for this particular episode of the Parliament. I will be back on tomorrow with one of the bigger gets that I've had in quite a while. I'm going to be talking with the creator of Talislanta.
Whoa!
So #no elves. Because funny story about this. Originally, they were crowdfunding a 5e hack of Talislanta on GameFound. Then,
however,
Wizards decided to be wizards.
We've all been over this!
And they decided to pivot and say, you know what? Fuck it. The 5e conversion is going to be a secondary thing. We are making a 6th edition of Talislanta.
Woo!
On Wednesday, Zan and I will be going live to discuss the first draft of the ORC license that Paizo has put out, along with the answers and explanations, which they abbreviated as AXE. Ha.
Ha! I see what you did there.
Thursday, I will be having Peter Leclerc of Mythic Space on.
Ooh.
And Friday, Zan and I will be continuing our look through the Faith RPG on the Valley of the Judge, this time covering the other big of the second of the three big powers in the Faith universe. We already went through the hyper-capitalism, now we're going with hyper-spiritualism.
Hyper-spiritualist communists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's an intriguing combination.
Faith
It's
is
me
an
being a
interesting
little-
setting.
Yeah, and it's me being a little hyperbolic as well.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And on Saturday, Mark Reinhagen will be coming back. We'll be talking with him about Fang Night. Anybody making jokes which does involve, yes, vampire knights. Go ahead, make your jokes about the anime. I know you got them.
We've already got them. We've already got them a couple times. We know.
Yep. And, of course, this Sunday will be the next episode of Geek Watch. So, as Yoshi P would say, please look forward to it. And that's a double pun there.
That it is.
But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.